for pairs of armored boots crunch softly on the cavern's dusty floor. The adventurers have reached a grand, crystalline chamber, the end of their journey. They reflect on the immense distance they have traveled to get here. Kuga turns, asking his comrades what's wrong, believing this is the final trial. Across a narrow stone bridge, Sarah, the party leader, calls out his name. Sarah looks at him coldly, stating that he has been in Kuga's care. He delivers the shocking news. This is where they part ways. Kuga can only utter a sound of pure, uncomprehending disbelief. Makari looks away, sadly, admitting this has been coming since their student days. Standing alone, Kuga asks if this is truly happening at this very moment. He asks if they will at least grant him a reason for this betrayal. The mage, Yuria, remains silent, her face a mask of sorrow. The three of them stand united as Sarah prepares to give his reason. He delivers the two words that seal Kuga's fate, Jack of all trades. Kuga's eyes widen with bitter understanding as Sarah asks if he gets it now. Sarah explains that for the three of them, this is the optimal solution. Kuga is left speechless, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his face. Sarah commands him to enter the hidden room ahead, and to do it alone. Standing above him, Sarah calls this cruel order his last gift to Kuga. A close-up reveals the cold, pragmatic condescension in Sarah's eyes. Kuga looks down, the full weight of the betrayal finally sinking in. He realizes his life as a dungeon explorer is being terminated. Makari calls out to Sarah, her voice filled with concern. She pleads with him, saying that this is too cruel and they should stop. Sarah refuses, his voice firm, stating he will make Kuga go, even by force. Kuga tells Makari from across the chasm that it's fine, not to worry. Makari and Yuria watch helplessly, their expressions filled with conflict and regret. Kuga looks back at Sarah one last time, his face a mask of grim resolve. He turns to face the darkness, declaring he will accept their so-called gift. His once trembling hand clenches into a tight, unwavering fist. With a surge of defiant anger, he shouts that he will gratefully take it. A colossal, demonic eye watches as Kuga enters the room of the waiting vampire. The beautiful vampire greets him with a smirk, asking what seems to be wrong. Kuga stands his ground as she asks if he truly intends to face her. She finds it amusing that he would dare to fight her all by himself. 50 years ago, dungeons, monsters, and magic suddenly appeared on Earth. The one-time use revive, magic became commonplace, making exploration safer. As a result, dungeon exploration became a popular form of live entertainment. But legend spoke of a place called the Hidden Room of No Return. From this dark and ominous chamber, it was said that, in all of history, not a single adventurer had ever managed to make it back out. His former party had faced this monster before, using their revives to retreat. They had been utterly defeated and forced to flee the dungeon. Now, the monster stands before Kuga, asking what's wrong. She repeats her question with a mocking smile. Will he face her alone? She recognizes him, asking if he is the one she saw before. She identifies him as the outcast, introducing herself as the beautiful vampire. Kuga calmly confirms that her description of herself is quite accurate. She laughs, delighted by his unexpectedly calm demeanor. She stops, her expression turning to one of genuine curiosity. She notes that for someone who has been sent here to die, Kuga's face is a mask of weary resignation. He seems incredibly composed. He admits that he had always suspected his journey might end this way. In a strange way, he thinks this outcome might be for the best. The vampire floats closer, intrigued by his fatalistic attitude. She smiles warmly, telling him she is genuinely glad that he came. Kuga is confused by her sudden sincerity. Her expression turns manic as she asks why she is so happy. The reason, she says with a terrifying grin, is quite simple. Because I was bored, she screams, unleashing a torrent of dark energy. Kuga reacts instantly, raising his massive sword to defend himself. He grunts with effort, deflecting the chaotic blast with his blade. The powerful attack splits around him as he stands his ground. He holds firm against the magical onslaught, sweat dripping from his brow. She appears behind him in a flash, impressed by his swordsmanship. He pivots, blocking another lightning-fast strike as sparks fly. The vampire seems surprised that he managed to block her attack again. She reveals her special skill, instantaneous movement, a form of teleportation. Kuga realizes that if she hadn't paused, he would have been hit. If he cannot defend, then he must go on the offensive. He resolves to press the attack himself. He lunges forward, their blades clashing in a furious exchange. His eyes are narrowed in intense concentration as they trade blows. His blade finds an opening, slicing through her frilled sleeve. The vampire gasps in surprise as his sword connects. Their battle rages, the force of their blows shaking the very ground. Kuga plants his foot, preparing for another powerful swing. They lock eyes across their crossed blades, neither giving an inch. The vampire unleashes a wave of energy, forcing Kuga back on the defensive. A spike of dark magic pierces his shoulder, making him cry out in pain. In the same instant, his own blade slashes across her arm, wounding her. He clutches his bleeding shoulder, the pain sharp and intense. He mutters a single word, "Heal," as green light envelopes the wound. The injury vanishes in an instant, leaving his flesh completely restored. The vampire stares, her eyes wide with utter shock. She stammers, asking if he can use healing magic as well. With a newfound respect, she murmurs that he is truly versatile. Kuga grimly agrees that this might be the case. A stark panel confirms that this versatility is the very reason for his fate. A grand illustration depicts his job, the legendary hero. The hero can use swordsmanship, defense, attack, support, and even recovery magic. A stat chart shows they're perfectly balanced, all around high capabilities. However, the text explains they cannot truly master any one discipline. They're always outmatched by specialists who have honed a single skill. They can never reach the peak of power that specialists can achieve. In the world of dungeons, this creates a fundamental problem. A party is strictly limited to only 4 members. Therefore, combining the focused power of 4 specialists is key. This is considered the most effective way to conquer any dungeon. 2 swords clash in a brilliant explosion of sparks and raw power. A hand reaches out from a swirling vortex of magical energy. This is Sarah, the Sword Saint, a master of physical attacks. This is Yuria, the Saint, a specialist in devastating magical offense. And this is Mikari, the Enchanter, who excels at support magic. This is why Kuga, the hero, was forced to become their healer. But Alicia, the vampire, knows this battle is entirely different. Kuga feels a strange, unfamiliar sensation he has never known before. He realizes how liberating it is to fight without protecting anyone. Alicia suddenly halts her attack, calling out to the man before her. Her eye narrows as she admits something has been bothering her. She points a delicate finger at a small, floating object. Kuga calmly identifies it as a drone used for streaming their fight. Alicia suspiciously asks if this streaming is a betrayal device. Kuga looks weary as Alicia stares at the drone with great intensity. He sighs, preparing to explain this bizarre concept to the vampire. The time had finally come to explain streaming to a dungeon monster. He describes how their images are broadcast across the entire world, and how viewers can post their own real-time comments. As he speaks, the vampire ceases her attack, listening intently. Alicia is completely captivated, her eyes sparkling with profound interest. She realizes with awe that their battle is being watched by everyone. Kuga grimly confirms this was the final gift from his old party. He recalls them abandoning him, calling it their parting gesture. Alicia gets a thrilling shiver, finding the entire idea exciting. Kuga unexpectedly turns and offers her his sincere thanks. Alicia looks at him, completely confused by his sudden gratitude. He says she is the first to teach him something so politely. Her eyes shining, She eagerly asks what comments people are posting. Kuga materializes a holographic screen, showing her the live feed. He scrolls through the list, his finger stopping on the top comment. He reads the words aloud to her. Vampire San is cute. Alicia's composure completely shatters as she lets out a shriek. She frantically grabs the screen, staring at the comments in disbelief. She can't believe it's just a flood of people calling her cute. Kuga calmly confirms most comments are about her appearance. Covering her face in embarrassment, she calls the humans shameless. She demands to know if all humans are such perverts. Kuga tries to explain that it's not meant as an insult. She mutters that comments are supposed to be people's true thoughts. She fidgets nervously before turning to ask him a question. She shyly asks if she can say something a little strange. Kuga waits, confused by her sudden change in demeanor. With earnest, pleading eyes, she asks him to teach her about streaming. The bizarre request leaves Kuga utterly stunned and speechless. She clarifies that she means exactly what she just said. She has taken a profound and sudden interest in streaming. Therefore, she wants him to teach her everything there is to know. Kuga, overwhelmed but seeing her sincerity, agrees to her request. He wonders if it's even possible for a boss like her to stream. Her life was a simple cycle of napping until an invader appeared. She would then have to rush to get ready for battle. Then she would quickly warp to the location of the fight. She complains that she was having a pleasant nap before they arrived. She realizes streaming is her ticket to finally leaving this room. She grabs Kuga's hand, her face alight with newfound determination. With shining eyes, she declares that they will stream together. Leaning close, she whispers that his blood smells incredibly delicious. Kuga simply notes that she seems to have a lot of confidence. He smiles, realizing how quickly their dynamic has completely changed. Their relationship has evolved from a death match to a partnership. As they walk through the cavern, Kuga falls into silent thought. He reflects that he had one major problem before this encounter. Exploring dungeons had started as a fun activity with his school friends. His entire purpose had been to fight solely to protect his comrades. He never had anything interesting or witty to say on their streams. He never tried to stand out, content to support them from behind. That is why he accepted Sarah's final, cruel gift without a fight. He had resigned himself to ending his dungeon career right there. He was on a self-destructive path, completely ready to give up. But then, in that moment, he met this strange, unpredictable vampire. Her presence had given him a new and entirely unexpected purpose. He admits he couldn't have honestly answered her first question. But now, everything has changed, and a new path has opened. He looks at her and agrees to her proposal, saying he understands. A genuine, gentle smile touches Kuga's lips for the first time. Alicia beams back, her face alight with pure, unadulterated delight. And so, their unlikely and unprecedented partnership was officially formed. They walked together through the grand, Gothic halls of her domain. Kuga asks Alicia what she, personally, truly wants to accomplish. He waits for her answer, his expression open and curious. She stops and formally introduces herself to him as Alicia. She confesses she doesn't know who named her, it's just her name. From the moment she became self-aware, she has been Alicia. Kuga nods, accepting her strange explanation without question. He, in turn, introduces himself as Kuga, age 24. She repeats his name, thinking it sounds cool, and he agrees. He then gently steers the conversation back to his original question. Alicia thinks for a moment before giving him her answer. She admits that recently, she has been feeling profoundly bored. Kuga listens intently, wondering what her ultimate ambition could be. She says she wants to aim for the very top of existence. She declares her grand goal is to become the final boss. Kuga is intrigued by her strange, video game-like ambition. He asks her how, specifically, one goes about becoming a final boss. She explains the first step is to become an SS rank boss. She presents him with a crumpled piece of paper, her checklist. He reads the list of conditions for becoming an SS rank boss. The list details hunting invaders, parties, and recruiting other bosses. As they walk, Kuga reflects on this new, strange path before him. Kuga thinks to himself that this monster hierarchy is surprisingly civilized. He continues to examine the crumpled list of conditions Alicia gave him. Looking up from the paper, he asks if hunting explorers is a requirement. Alicia confirms that it is, as Kuga lowers his gaze thoughtfully. A look of sudden realization crosses Alicia's face as she falls silent. She admits she was just running on momentum and hadn't thought it through. Alicia slumps in defeat, realizing that Kuga is an invader. This would create a difficult situation for him. She concludes sadly. Kuga, however, calmly tells her that it doesn't really matter to him. Alicia is completely taken aback by his casual dismissal of the problem. She leans in, asking him to explain what he means by that. Kuga clarifies that combat between explorers is not actually forbidden. Alicia stares at him, her eyes wide with shock at this revelation. An image of a dungeon shows text explaining the auto-revive rule. Auto-revive is a special magic that activates upon death inside a dungeon. It is a powerful spell, but it is known to work only once. Therefore, after dying once, an explorer can never enter that dungeon again. However, this guarantee of revival grants explorers a certain degree of freedom. A clash of swords illustrates that combat is one of those permitted actions. Kuga explains that there are even streamers who specialize in dueling others. He mentions that the third of the 4 S-rank parties are such a group. These famous streamers are known as the duelists, he concludes. Alicia is fascinated, her eyes sparkling with excitement at this new information. She brings the conversation back to her goal, pointing to her list. She highlights the specific condition of hunting down an S-rank party. Alicia muses that there are only 4 S-rank parties in the human world. Kuga confirms this is correct, as Alicia processes the information. She then turns the question to him, asking what his rank was. Kuga quietly admits that he was a member of an A-rank party. Alicia nods, understanding the implication of his past tense. She realizes this means there are explorers ranked even higher than him. Kuga agrees, as Alicia's excitement about the challenge visibly grows. He then asks Alicia if she has a rank, since she's not on any boss lists. Alicia puffs out her chest proudly, declaring that she is rankless. Kuga understands she must be a hidden boss, which is why she's unlisted. She leans in close, asking if starting from 0 isn't more interesting. She crouches down, declaring that this will be the purpose of their channel. She dramatically announces they will deliver a documentary of her journey to Final Boss. Her goal, she states with a chibi-like grin, is to instill fear in humans. She wants to make them reflect on their tasteless hobby of dungeon streaming. She declares they will make humanity realize the depravity of their actions. Kuga, looking amused, agrees that her plan sounds fine by him. He smiles to himself, wondering what his role will be in this grand scheme. A caption indicates that several hours have passed since their conversation. Alicia waves at the drone, asking if the audience can see them now. The live chat immediately explodes with comments confirming they see the vampire Chan. Alicia is overwhelmed, her hands fluttering in front of her face. She remarks on how quickly the comments are coming in for their first stream. Kuga, seated nearby, is also taken aback by the incredible response. He watches the comment feed scroll by an impossible speed. He thinks that this is an amazing turnout for a debut broadcast. The comment feed is a chaotic blur, a visual sign of their instant fame. Alicia grabs Kuga's shoulder, excitedly declaring their launch a great success. Kuga agrees, noting this is likely a historic first for a dungeon monster. A dynamic shot shows the duo, with text explaining their story has gone viral. News of the exiled hero collaborating with a monster has spread everywhere. Alicia announces that their unexpected fame has led to this momentous first broadcast. She declares their first topic, hunting Inva. Oops, she misspoke. She corrects herself with a bright smile, saying she meant explore hunting. The live chat is filled with confused comments. Yeah, Seriously? A collective murmur of shock and disbelief ripples through the thousands of viewers. An establishing shot shows the grand, Gothic hall they currently occupy. Kuga asks Alicia what she personally wants to accomplish with their streaming. He looks confused, unsure of her ultimate goal beyond the immediate spectacle. Alicia turns to him, cheerfully stating that her name is Alicia. Kuga asks who named her, but she admits that she doesn't know. She explains she has simply been Alicia since she became self-aware. Kuga acknowledges this, understanding her unique existence. He then formally introduces himself as Kuga, age 24. Alicia repeats his name, thinking it sounds cool, but Kuga redirects her. He gently brings her back to the topic, asking again what she wants to do. Alicia quietly agrees to answer his question this time. She admits that she's been very bored lately and had a sudden thought. Kuga waits patiently, asking what that particular thought was. She says she thought it would be nice to try and reach the top. She declares her ambition to become the final boss, the pinnacle of monster kind. She looks at him with a proud, smug expression, awaiting his reaction. Kuga, intrigued, asks what a final boss is and how one becomes it. Alicia explains that the first step is to become an SS rank boss. She presents a crumpled piece of paper, saying this is it. Kuga takes the list, bemused, as she calls it the conditions for SS rank. A clean, printed version of the list appears for the reader to see. Kuga thinks to himself that this monster hierarchy is surprisingly civilized. He continues to examine the crumpled list of conditions Alicia gave him. Looking up from the paper, he asks if hunting explorers is a requirement. Alicia confirms that it is, as Kuga lowers his gaze thoughtfully. A look of sudden realization crosses Alicia's face as she falls silent. She admits she was just running on momentum and hadn't thought it through. Alicia slumps in defeat, realizing that Kuga is an invader. This would create a difficult situation for him, she concludes sadly. Kuga, however, calmly tells her that it doesn't really matter to him. Alicia is completely taken aback by his casual dismissal of the problem. She leans in, asking him to explain what he means by that. Kuga clarifies that combat between explorers is not actually forbidden. Alicia stares at him, her eyes wide with shock at this revelation. An image of a dungeon shows text explaining the auto-revive rule. Auto-revive is a special magic that activates upon death inside a dungeon. It is a powerful spell, but it is known to work only once. Therefore, after dying once, an explorer can never enter that dungeon again. However, this guarantee of revival grants explorers a certain degree of freedom. Kuga explains that some streamers called duelists fight other explorers for entertainment. The third strongest of the 4 S-rank parties is known for this. He clarifies that these duelists are the most famous streamers in the world. Alicia's eyes widen with a dangerous, newfound curiosity at this revelation. She then changes the subject, bringing up her quest to become an SS rank boss. Her crumpled list shows that one condition is to hunt an S-rank party. Alicia muses that there are only 4 such human parties in existence. Kuga confirms this as they walk, and she quietly processes the information. With a cute, inquisitive look, she then asks him what his rank is. Kuga looks away sadly, admitting that he was in an A-rank party. Alicia nods slowly, a new understanding of his past dawning on her. She realizes there are entire groups of humans even stronger than him. He agrees, and she vibrates with excitement at the thought of the challenge. Kuga then asks Alicia her rank, since she is not on any boss lists. With a proud puff of her chest, she declares that she is rankless. He guesses she is a hidden boss, a fact she nonchalantly confirms. Leaning in close, she asks if starting from 0 isn't more exciting. With that, she dramatically announces the grand purpose of their new channel. It will be a documentary chronicling her journey from nothing to final boss. With a determined clench of her fist, she declares her goal is to instill fear. She wants to make humanity abandon its tasteless hobby of dungeon streaming. Her expression is a mix of mischievous glee and terrifying resolve. Kuga can only agree hesitantly to her wild and theatrical plan. He quietly wonders what his own role will be in this strange venture. Several hours pass as they prepare for their grand debut. Alicia waves at the drone, asking their unseen audience if they can see her. Instantly, a flood of comments confirms that the world is indeed watching. She throws her hands up in delight, celebrating their immediate success. She announces that with the comments pouring in, their first broadcast can begin. Kuga stares at the screen, completely stunned by the sheer volume of viewers. The comment feed is a chaotic blur, scrolling by at an impossible speed. He thinks to himself that this much attention for a first stream is unheard of. The overwhelming response shows just how much hype their strange partnership has generated. Alicia excitedly asks Kuga if he agrees this is an excellent start. He calmly concurs, thinking this is likely a historic first for a monster. Their story had already become a legend, spreading across the global network. News of the banished hero collaborating with a monster was on everyone's lips. This unexpected attention, Alicia explains, led them to their inaugural broadcast. She begins to announce their theme, starting to say Invader, before catching herself. Correcting her mistake, she declares her intention to go explore hunting instead. The live stream chat is immediately flooded with stunned, confused comments. A low, uncertain murmur buzzes through the disbelieving online audience. Suddenly, Kuga spots something ahead in the crystalline cavern, getting her attention. He points out a party of 4 adventurers, identifying them as invaders. Alicia's eyes gleam as she notes how nonchalantly their prey has appeared. The adventurers, a young man and woman, celebrate having finally made it. The man, Kinzaki, feels nostalgic, reflecting on their time as high school clubmates. The scene flashes back to a sun-drenched clubroom, years ago. The young woman, Akina, shyly begins to confess something to Kinzaki. She admits that she had especially wanted to be in his party. A surprised Kinzaki asks her just what she means by that. Their tender memory is shattered by Alicia's sudden, shrieking attack. The explorers' faces are frozen in a mask of pure, uncomprehending shock. The attack is a brutal, chaotic blur of motion and steel. In a flash, the fight is over almost as soon as it began. The adventurers lie defeated as Alicia stands over them, victorious. Akina, bleeding on the ground, weakly calls out Kinzaki's name. He whispers her name back, his own body broken and bleeding. His mind races in despair, wondering how everything went so wrong. Their monster hunt had been proceeding smoothly, without any real problems. They had survived many close calls and were certain they weren't careless. With his last bit of strength, he reaches a trembling hand for Akina. He strains, believing his fingers are just about to reach her. Their hands are inches apart as she calls his name one last time. A shadowy claw suddenly descends, gripping Akina's head with brutal force. Kinzaki's eyes widen in pure, unadulterated terror at the horrific sight. The vampire Alicia leans in, a cruel and beautiful smile on her lips. She mockingly congratulates the defeated explorers, much to Kuga's weary exasperation. The fallen adventurer, Kinzaki, lets out a raw scream of pure, helpless rage. He demands to know what kind of monsters would do such a thing. Alicia's expression turns cold as she states she is simply hunting humans. Kinzaki is stunned into silence by her casual, matter-of-fact cruelty. His shock quickly turns back to fury as he tells her not to mess with them. She coolly asks why he is so upset, unable to comprehend his anger. She points out that his actions as an explorer are exactly the same. Her cold logic leaves the young adventurer completely speechless. She continues her interrogation, asking why he streams his dungeon delves. With a dismissive air, she guesses that he does it simply for money. Or, she posits, perhaps it's for the hollow validation of others. She cannot understand his feelings, but dismisses his life's passion as pathetic. With a chilling smile, she tells him he should be grateful she's paying attention. Pushed beyond his limit, Kinzaki clenches his fist in a final, defiant gesture. He spits a final curse at her, his voice choked with impotent rage. In response, Alicia unleashes a cataclysmic blast of overwhelming dark power. The two explorers are completely obliterated by the force of the attack. Alicia turns to Kuga, sheepishly asking if her speech was a bit much. Kuga remains silent, his expression shadowed and impossible to read. He internally reflects on Alicia's actions, noting how shockingly ruthless she was. He thinks about how she mercilessly slaughtered a promising B-rank party. Alicia muses to herself that this brutal display was a complete accident. Kuga covers his face, muttering about how pitiful the whole scene was. She asks if he realizes that a human audience is watching all of this. He quietly confirms that he is well aware of their unseen viewers. A sinister, knowing smile spreads across Alicia's face as she understands. She turns to the camera, asking the humans if they were properly terrified. The first wave of comments is pure hatred, calling her disgusting and evil. Alicia is delighted, believing she has successfully instilled fear in her audience. Kuga recalls how explorers themselves often perform cruel experiments on monsters. But the comments shift, expressing a strange elation, leaving Alicia utterly baffled. Kuga recalls the sickening experiments explorers performed, like slicing slimes just to watch them heal. A viewer comment appears, musing that they will continue watching for now. Alicia is flabbergasted by a comment thanking her for awakening something new within them. She recoils in utter confusion, her mind unable to process the bizarre human reaction. Panicked, she grabs onto Kuga, desperately asking him to explain what is happening. With a horrified blush, she asks the dreadful question, "Are humans secretly monsters?" Kuga grimly agrees they might be, as she wonders if they're even worse. With a weary sigh, Kuga admits that he simply cannot deny her conclusion. He reflects that humanity's unpredictable nature will greatly derail Alicia's grand plans. Suddenly, Kuga grabs Alicia's arm, urging her to look at something ahead. He points out a new party of adventurers, identifying them as invaders. Alicia's eyes gleam as she agrees they should nonchalantly appear before them. The two lead explorers, Kinzaki and Akina, happily celebrate how far they've come. Kinzaki feels a wave of nostalgia, reminiscing about their high school club days. Akina shyly agrees, saying that she feels the same way about their journey. She specifies that she felt that way especially about him, Kinzaki. With hopeful eyes, she confesses that she always wanted to be in his party. Kinzaki is taken aback, trying to understand the depth of her heartfelt words. Their tender moment is shattered by a sudden, blood-curdling shriek from behind them. They both whip around, their faces frozen in expressions of pure, unadulterated shock. A blur of motion and sharp claws descends upon them with terrifying speed. The attack connects in a violent flurry of slashes and devastating impacts. The two explorers lie broken on the cavern floor, Alicia standing over them. Akina, bleeding and weak, whispers Kinzaki's name as she reaches out. Kinzaki, also wounded, weakly calls out Akina's name, trying to crawl to her. His mind races in agony, wondering why and how this terrible fate befell them. He thinks back on their hunt, how smoothly it had been going without issue. He is certain that they hadn't been careless or overconfident in their abilities. He desperately reaches a blood-soaked hand toward Akina, calling her name one last time. He believes that if only his hand could reach her, everything would be all right. Their fingertips are just about to touch when a dark shadow falls over them. A clawed, shadowy hand suddenly descends, gripping Akina's head from above. Kinzaki's eyes widen in sheer terror as he looks up at their attacker. He sees the gleefully cruel and triumphant smile of Alicia looming above him. She beams, mockingly congratulating them on a job well done as Kuga facepalms. From the ground, Kinzaki lets out a scream of pure rage and frustration. He demands to know what they are, as Alicia and Kuga look down. Alicia coolly replies that they are simply hunting humans, nothing more complicated than that. Kinzaki is stunned into silence by her casual and dismissive cruelty. He finally snaps, screaming at them not to mess with him and his friends. Alicia asks why he is struggling so much to comprehend the situation. She points out that what he does every day is exactly the same as her. Kinzaki is left completely speechless, unable to refute her cold, undeniable logic. Alicia looks down at him, asking for his reason for streaming his dungeon delves. She questions if his motivation is simply money, but he remains silent. She then asks if it's for the validation of others, striking a raw nerve. She can't understand his feelings, but is willing to indulge his pathetic hobby. With a chilling smirk, she tells him that he should be grateful for her attention. Kinzaki clenches his fist in impotent fury, his face contorted with rage. He spits a final curse at her, his hand digging into the cavern floor. Alicia unleashes a cataclysmic wave of dark energy, obliterating him completely. She stands over the now empty crater, muttering a confused to herself. Turning to Kuga, she apologizes, asking if she was about to say something. Kuga remains silent, his expression unreadable as he processes the brutal scene. He thinks to himself that Alicia certainly played her part with ruthless flair. He reflects that she mercilessly slaughtered a promising B-rank party without any hesitation. Alicia muses that this proves she's no pushover, calling the encounter a complete accident. Kuga covers his face with his hand, muttering about how pitiful the display was. He asks if she is even aware that humans are watching this unfold live. Kuga confirms that yes, they're indeed broadcasting this whole brutal affair. A sinister smile spreads across Alicia's face as she says, "Good." She turns to the camera, asking the humans how they like that, if they're scared yet. The first comments are exactly what she expected. The worst, disgusting, die monster. She crosses her arms, nodding smugly, pleased that her intimidation tactics are working. Kuga recalls a comment about those same explorers experimenting on monsters in the past. Alicia is bewildered as new comments talk about strange feelings and weird brain juices. Kuga remembers them slicing up slimes, thinking they were always a disgusting bunch. A viewer comments they'll just keep watching, much to Alicia's growing confusion. Alicia is shocked by a comment thanking her for helping them awaken to something new. She reels back in utter confusion, her mind completely blown by the strange reaction. Panicked, she grabs Kuga, desperately asking for an explanation for the viewer's behavior. Her face is a mixture of blush and horror as she asks if humans are monsters. Kuga grimly suggests they might be, while she wonders if they're even worse than monsters. With a weary expression, Kuga admits that he simply cannot deny her shocking conclusion. He reflects that her plan will be thrown off by humanity's unpredictable nature. The scene shifts to a breathtaking city of monsters under a sky of falling petals. The ornate, European-style architecture of the city is shown in beautiful detail. Alicia turns to Kuga with a bright smile, asking him to take her hand. Kuga hesitates for a moment before accepting her outstretched hand. She walks ahead, turning back to ask him what's the matter with him. She playfully asks if he's feeling embarrassed, and he quietly admits that he is. She giggles, calling him surprisingly timid as he blushes and looks away. Taking his arm firmly in her own, she announces that it is time to warp. They appear on a high balcony, and she proudly asks him what he thinks. Kuga stares in absolute awe as she declares that this is the city of monsters. She explains that, as the name implies, only monsters can normally enter this place. A viewer comment expresses amazement that a city of monsters actually exists. Another viewer remarks on the city's surprisingly beautiful and emotional atmosphere. A third comment admits that seeing these cute monsters is making them feel empathy. The comments section continues to flood with messages of shock and fascination. Alicia smiles proudly, pleased with the overwhelming reaction from her audience. She tells Kuga that he is probably the very first human to set foot here. Kuga looks concerned, asking if it's really okay for him to be here. Alicia casually waves it off, saying it's not like it's explicitly forbidden. He reminds her that, Despite the circumstances, he is still a human. She looks at him with a serious expression, asking if he'll be all right. She assures him it's fine, because he is now hers. She turns away, lost in thought for a brief and quiet moment. She wonders aloud what exactly he is to her now. She decides that for now, he is her special something, a person of significance. Kuga agrees, and thus, he safely entered the world of monsters. And so, with a new title and purpose, Kuga became Alicia's official something. Kuga cautiously asked if it was truly wise to be streaming this historic visit. Alicia's stated goal was becoming the final boss, but Kuga sensed a deeper purpose. She wanted to make humanity reflect on their foolish habit of dungeon streaming. But the viewers saw something else, finding the monsters' daily lives strangely wonderful. Some admitted they were starting to feel an unexpected empathy for the creatures. Kuga couldn't tell if her actions were calculated as she led him onward. He felt the intense, curious stares of the monster citizens all around him. Overwhelmed by the attention, Kuga tried to hide his very human face. A massive shadow fell over them as a monster whispered her name in awe. Kuga gasped, his eyes wide with shock at the immense presence before them. It was a Minotaur, a legendary S-rank boss radiating overwhelming power. The stream chat erupted in panic, screaming for them to run for their lives. Alicia, however, simply beamed with delight, calling out the beast's nickname. She cheerfully ran up to the terrifying creature, asking him what was wrong. The viewers were utterly baffled by her casual and impossibly friendly greeting. With a proud smile, Alicia prepared to introduce Kuga to the S-rank boss. This, she declared with impossible confidence, was her dear friend, Mino-chan. And this, she explained to the beast, was Kuga, her own special something. The mighty Minotauros bowed politely, leaving Kuga completely speechless. The Minotaur then gently scolded her, saying it was reckless to bring a human. Alicia just giggled at his concern, teasing that his voice was surprisingly cute. Minotauros turned to Kuga, formally apologizing for their sudden, strange meeting. Kuga apologized for his intrusion, still reeling from the surreal courtesy. The viewers found themselves agreeing with the Minotaur, finding him quite charming. Kuga knew his presence here was highly unusual, arousing deep suspicion. But he had two compelling reasons for taking this incredible, necessary risk. First, after his party's betrayal, returning to human society was too dangerous. Second, Alicia likely could not leave the dungeon, making separation a problem. If they went their separate ways now, they had no way to contact each other. A chance meeting in the future might be possible, but it was far from certain. He feared that if they parted, they might never see each other again. The risk of being permanently separated was simply too great to take. As Kuga calmly formulated these logical theories in his head, Alicia was simply laughing at comments on the stream that were mocking him. She playfully pointed out that the viewers were making fun of him again. Her laughter subsided, and she suddenly asked him what Kumasiya meant. Kuga quietly explained that it was the name of his former party. Alicia nodded, a flicker of understanding dawning in her eyes. She quickly changed the subject, dismissing the painful past for the moment. She turned her full attention back to her dear friend, Mino-chan. She declared that Kuga was hers, and she would tolerate no interference. The mighty Minotaur could only slump in defeat, utterly confused by her words. The stream viewers came to a consensus. Mino-chan was the most sensible one here. With that bizarre encounter concluded, the day's broadcast came to an end. As they walked through the city streets, Alicia suddenly stopped. She turned to Kuga, asking if they could make a little detour. He agreed, following her as she floated ahead with a newfound purpose. She led them through a marketplace filled with discarded items and rubble. She asked what kind of fruit he liked. He replied that he preferred apples. She picked up a beautiful, otherworldly blue apple, intrigued by his simple choice. With a bright smile, she said she loved them too, especially the blue ones. She asked the vendor the price, and he replied it was 500 yen. Kuga let out a cry of pure, unadulterated shock at the familiar currency. Alicia asked what was wrong, as he wondered if he had somehow misheard. Before he could react, Alicia presented a crisp 1,000 yen bill. It was unmistakably a standard monetary note from the human world. The vendor's clawed hand returned a familiar 500 yen coin as change. Kuga was once again struck completely speechless by the mundane revelation. He stammered that their currency was the same as the human world's. Alicia seemed completely unfazed, asking if that was truly so strange. Kuga realized this must be a phenomenon unique to the Japanese dungeon. He reasoned that other dungeons would surely use their own nation's currency. Dungeons have been confirmed to exist in 9 countries across the globe. Each of these nations hosted its own colossal, otherworldly dungeon entrance. Japan's own dungeon entrance was located in the heart of Tokyo. This isolation meant the vast majority of its explorers were Japanese. His curiosity piqued. Kuga asked the vendor how they acquired their money. The lizard-like monster explained that they received a daily stipend. Kuga understood this to be a form of universal basic income for monsters. He offered to pay for the apples himself, insisting it was his turn. But Alicia insisted, telling him to relax and let her take care of him. As night fell, she led him to a charming and quiet little house. Inside, she draped a blanket over him, telling him to relax and feel at home. And so, Kuga found himself a guest in Alicia's temporary residence. This was her base of operations until her true boss castle could be built. He had initially assumed he would be staying at a local monster inn, but Alicia had invited him into her home without a hint of caution. He marveled at how she so casually welcomed a strange man into her home. Soon after they had settled in, it was time for them to have dinner. Alicia presented his meal to him with a look of immense pride. It was a single, perfect blue apple served on a pristine white plate. He could only stare at the meager meal in complete and utter bewilderment. Alicia tilted her head, confused by his distinct lack of enthusiasm. Later that evening, the full moon hung high in the starry sky. Alicia enjoyed a long, relaxing bath after their very light meal. She let out a contented sigh, sinking blissfully into the warm water. Meanwhile, Kuga sat on the couch, supplementing his unusual dinner. He pulled out one of his standard-issue emergency ration bars. He quietly chewed on the bar, satisfying his very human need for calories. Finally, it was time for bed, but a new problem suddenly arose. Alicia ran to Kuga in a panic, exclaiming that it was a disaster. Flustered and blushing, she stammered his name, trying to explain the situation. She finally managed to shout that there was only one bed. Kuga simply looked at her, his expression surprisingly calm and collected. She hadn't considered the sleeping arrangements when she invited him to stay. The thought of sharing a bed with a man was completely unprecedented for her. Kuga reflected that he had experienced many unprecedented things just today. He was far too weary from the day's events to be fazed by this. As a proper host, she insisted she couldn't make her guests sleep on the floor. Grumbling with a pout, Alicia reluctantly offers to take the floor. Kuga, however, cheerfully reveals he has his own portable sleeping bag. With a soft thump, he quickly unrolls his bedroll on the floor. He is instantly fast asleep, while Alicia watches him from her bed. A faint blush dusts her cheeks as she watches with a conflicted expression. Night falls, and a full moon hangs over their temporary residence. As Kuga sleeps soundly, a dark silhouette of Alicia looms over him. She silently positions herself directly above his defenseless, sleeping form. Her eyes gleam with a predatory light as her vampiric instincts awaken. She licks her lips, a silent testament to her growing hunger. Quietly, she leans down, her target now just inches away. Her fangs extend as she moves in for the bite. She finally bites down, drawing a small taste of his blood. The small puncture marks the success of her stealthy hunt. A sharp sting is followed by a sudden yelp of pain. Kuga jolts awake, his face a mask of pained confusion. Alicia looks just as surprised, her stealthy mission a failure. She apologizes, wondering aloud why her natural anesthetic failed to work. Still groggy from sleep, he asks her what she was doing. He brandishes a medical syringe, catching her completely off guard. She sheepishly confesses that she just wanted a little bit of blood. She admits she only wanted a small taste without waking him up. With a deep blush, she admits she couldn't forget its delicious taste. He realizes this is simply the fundamental nature of a vampire. He grasps that she has simply taken a liking to his blood. With a weary sigh, he gets her attention to talk. He tells her that if she needs blood, she only has to ask. His generous offer leaves her completely stunned and speechless. Her face lights up with pure joy as she asks if he's serious. Overjoyed, she throws her arms around him in a grateful hug. She expertly draws a small vial of blood from his arm. She holds a vial like a precious treasure, sparkling with happiness. She carefully places a single, perfect drop onto her fingertip. With a look of pure bliss, she brings her finger to her lips. A look of absolute ecstasy washes over her blushing face. Kuga watches her with a gentle and understanding smile. He asks if such a small amount is enough, and she confirms it. He curiously asks why she doesn't just bite him directly. Flustered, she declares that such an act would be far too lewd. She hides her face in embarrassment, leaving Kuga bewildered. She smiles, explaining he is her special something, not her property. He looks on, quietly processing her unique declaration of respect. The night continues under the light of the full moon. A new day dawns on their unusual domestic life. An explorer flees in terror through the crystalline dungeon. A magic circle erupts, ending his hunt as the duo watches. Alicia cheerfully declares that this makes 26 victims so far. Kuga calculates their total, remembering the parties from the day before. With this latest victory, her total hunt count has risen to 28. Her quest to hunt 30 invaders is now nearly complete. The stream chat notes how easily this last explorer was defeated. He sees viewers in the chat cheering them on to find the last 4. He notes with a small smile how quickly the audience has adapted. The chat is a mix of supportive messages and the usual vitriol. With renewed focus, he prepares to search for their next target. As they walk, a voice calls out a casual greeting. They both turn in surprise, their hunt suddenly interrupted. Before them stands a formidable-looking party of 5 adventurers. The live stream chat immediately identifies the new arrivals as Monster Slayer. The blonde leader introduces his group with a confident smirk. An info panel lists the 4 elite S-rank parties in the world. It highlights Evil Slayer as a notoriously aggressive monster hunting party. The leader, a subordinate of Evil Slayer, addresses the duo. He notes that their recent activities have been quite interesting. He remarks on how much attention they have been attracting. Alicia is flattered by the recognition, giggling shyly. A viewer in the chat urgently warns Alicia to be careful. The party's friendly demeanor vanishes, replaced by menacing grins. The leader attacks suddenly, forcing Kuga to pull Alicia to safety. They stare back, shocked by the unprovoked, explosive assault. From afar, the leader seems impressed by their quick reflexes. He smirks, remarking on their ability to dodge his opening move. Alicia confirms their A-rank status with a quiet word to Kuga. She realizes this is a perfect, lucky opportunity for her quest. Kuga is taken aback by her sudden surge of excitement. Her eyes gleam with manic glee at this unexpected boon. She realizes she can check off 2 conditions on her list at once. Declaring it a bargain, she launches herself into the fight. The leader roars, charging forward to meet her head-on. Their weapons collide, unleashing a powerful shockwave. She grits her teeth, holding firm against his ferocious assault. He lets out a feral battle cry, pressing his attack. Viewers comment that the A-rank fighter is holding his own. A comment identifies him as a fencer, a particularly dangerous foe. One of the party members begins casting a fireball spell. Alicia glances aside, noticing the incoming magical attack. The fireball explodes harmlessly against her defensive wing. She casually deflects the powerful spell with a single motion. The party's tanks move to form a defensive line. Two tanks raise their shields, creating a formidable barrier. The leader appears behind her, ready to exploit the opening. He taunts her, asking if she's too preoccupied to defend herself. She glances back, surprised by his sudden reappearance. He swings his blade, yelling for her to take this attack. He unleashes his signature skill, a rapid series of slashes. A shower of sparks erupts as the attack is blocked. Kuga has moved to intercept, standing between them. The leader glares at Kuga, enraged by his interference. Kuga stands firm, his sword held ready to defend Alicia. From behind him, Alicia looks on with a satisfied smile. In the dusty cavern, Alicia checks on Kuga after his victory, assuming he's fine. She smiles, pleased to see that Kuga is finally showing his true fighting spirit. With a bright, almost manic grin, Alicia declares that this is exactly right. Facing the party's leader, Momoda, Kuga calmly accepts the challenge for a one-on-one duel. Alicia quickly formulates a new strategy. She will handle the others, leaving Momoda to Kuga. Standing ready with Alicia, Kuga confirms that he understands the new battle plan. Momoda sneers, refusing to let the vampire simply walk past him to his party. Kuga moves in a flash, intercepting Momoda's sudden charge with a powerful sword block. Landing gracefully after being parried, Momoda mockingly asks if the hero will fight him. He questions Kuga's chances, wondering if he honestly thinks he can win in close combat. Momoda is a fencer, a class specializing in high-speed, close-quarter sword fighting. He grins with absolute confidence, knowing his specialized fencer class gives him an advantage. The hero job is shown to have perfectly balanced, if unremarkable, A-rank stats. A hero can learn many skills, but is outclassed by specialists in every single field. The fencer class boasts superior attack and S-rank agility, perfect for specialized combat. Momoda stands poised for battle, asking Kuga if he is truly prepared for this. He shouts that he is about to teach Kuga a very painful and definitive lesson. With a vicious sneer, Momoda insults Kuga, calling him a completely featureless bastard. A complex magic circle appears at his feet as he begins to cast a spell. He stomps the ground, activating his acceleration magic to boost his already incredible speed. Their swords clash in a shower of sparks, a test of raw strength and will. Momoda finds it hilarious that a so-called hero of salvation is fighting with a monster. Kuga grunts, struggling against the physical and verbal assault from his arrogant opponent. He mocks Kuga for falling for a hero scam, calling him too stupid to know better. His face twists into a cruel grin as he prepares his final, cutting remark. He lands the final blow. Kuga was abandoned because he was simply too weak. Kuga's expression darkens as he quietly agrees that his opponent is absolutely right. He reflects that his party, Kumasei, would have been far better off without him. He recalls the betrayal, realizing that for him, that party had been his everything. His hand clenches into a tight fist as he decides that he doesn't care anymore. He unleashes a single, devastating swing, sending Momoda and his tanks flying backward. Momoda's face is a mask of pure shock as the immense force overwhelms him. The remaining party members can only watch in horror as their leader is defeated. The two heavily armored tanks are sent flying through the air, screaming in terror. Their screams echo as their bodies dissolve into particles, their hunt brutally ended. In the quiet aftermath, Kuga and Alicia stand victorious over their defeated foes. The last shimmering particles of the defeated adventurers fade into the cavern air. The entire scene is framed by the interface of their live dungeon stream. A single comment appears, expressing the viewer's stunned disbelief at Kuga's incredible power. Alicia turns to him, beaming with pride, and exclaims that they finally did it. Kuga looks down at his hands, quietly acknowledging that he has finally done it. A dark screen reveals his chilling thought. He has killed a human for the first time. Though they are automatically revived, the act of killing them remains a heavy truth. The revive magic only activates after one has truly died within the dungeon's walls. This means that for a moment, he had truly and definitively killed them. As a result, the defeated monster slayers can never enter this specific dungeon again. Their entire career as explorers in this place has now come to a sudden end. For Kuga, it was a momentous act, but for Alicia, it was simply inevitable. Alicia turns and cheekily asks him how it felt to have his first experience. Kuga looks at his hand, thoughtfully considering his answer to her pointed question. He concludes the sensation was no different than when he slays any other monster. Alicia smiles, pleased with his answer, calling it a very good trend indeed. Kuga is surprised as a notification appears, his status screen suddenly glowing brightly. The icon representing his job stone begins to extinguish, signaling a profound change. This means a new job tree has appeared, an unknown path opening before him. Alicia excitedly runs toward him, holding her list and eager to move on. Her eyes sparkle as she holds up her checklist, pointing to their latest accomplishments. She triumphantly announces that they have now fulfilled 2 conditions for her grand quest. As Alicia claps, Kuga realizes he never explained her quest to their curious audience. Suddenly, a massive, ornate axe blade slices through the air directly toward Alicia. Kuga and Alicia both react with wide-eyed shock at the sudden, vicious attack. Acting on pure instinct, Kuga shoves Alicia out of the path of the axe. The massive axe blade narrowly misses her, embedding itself deep into the ground. The impact shatters the cavern floor, the sheer force of the blow undeniable. Kuga looks up to see the attacker, Yuria, from his former party, Komisei. He stares at his former comrade, his expression a mixture of shock and confusion. He can only manage a sound of pure disbelief, unable to process her sudden appearance. A comment from their live stream confirms her identity, exclaiming that Lady Yuria has arrived. The world changed 50 years ago when colossal, otherworldly dungeons appeared on Earth. These strange new labyrinths were teeming with powerful and terrifying monsters of all kinds. However, humans who dared to enter these spaces awakened to magical jobs and abilities. They discovered the ability to awaken to specialized jobs and wield powerful magic. The dungeons were truly a mysterious space, operating by their own strange rules. In the modern era, exploring these dungeons has become a popular form of entertainment. Live streaming from within the dungeons has become a common and lucrative career. Kuga, a versatile but underappreciated jack-of-all-trades, became a hero to support his friends. He was then betrayed, cast out by his party into a hidden room to die. There, he met the beautiful and capricious vampire, the hidden boss named Alicia. She was utterly fascinated by the concept of streaming, a new world opening to her. With no place left for him, Kuga began an unprecedented career hunting other explorers. The past crashes into the present as Yuria stands ready for a second attack. Kuga and Alicia stare back at the saint, the tension in the air palpable. Alicia recoils, still shaken from the sheer power of the surprise attack. The holy power radiating from the massive axe blade is a clear and present danger. Yuria stands her ground, her stance unwavering and her intent crystal clear. She is framed by floating stream comments, a celebrity even in the heat of battle. Alicia recovers from her shock, expressing her annoyance at the sudden, rude interruption. Yuria snaps back, calling her a noisy and unrefined nuisance for her sudden attack. Her face contorts with rage as she furiously calls Alicia a thieving cat. Alicia is bewildered, asking why Yuria is trying to ruin their resolution. Reading a comment, Alicia realizes this is a member of Kuga's former party. Yuria confirms her affiliation, noting that the most important piece is now missing. Alicia is still confused by the strange and cryptic statement from the angry saint. She finally understands, asking if Yuria was one of the people who exiled Kuga. Kuga finally speaks, asking his former comrade what business she has with him now. He thinks back to the day of his expulsion, his expression clouded with memory. He recalls that during the moment of his betrayal, Yuria had remained completely silent. She did not utter a single word, leaving him to wonder what she thought. He never knew what she was thinking, and she admits talking isn't her strength. She declares that for now, she will simply beat Alicia into submission instead. Yuria, the saint, leaps into the air, her massive axe poised to strike. Alicia watches the attack approach, her expression focused and ready for impact. The live stream chat explodes, a viewer excitedly announcing that it's here. Another viewer enthusiastically cheers on their favorite, chanting Goryeo-sama. Yuria's profile is shown, her gaze sharp and determined as she attacks. As Alicia watches, a comment appears, wondering who to cheer for. A text box identifies the beautiful brawler by her popular nickname, Goryeo-sama. Narration explains her unusual fighting style, a saint specializing in aggressive, close-quarters combat. Her face set with determination, she unleashes her signature move, Holy Knight. Alicia braces for the hit as the attack lands with a massive explosion. Yuria's heeled boot digs into the ground, showing the immense force behind her. Alicia counters, swinging her own weapon as a magic circle appears behind her. Their weapons meet in a cataclysmic clash of dark and holy energy. Yuria is thrown backward, overwhelmed by the sheer force of Alicia's counter. From a distance, she looks on, shocked by the vampire's incredible power. She grits her teeth, clutching her arm, which is now injured from the blow. The ground shatters around her as she struggles to regain her footing. Kuga sits silently amidst the rubble, observing the duel from the sidelines. He reflects on the incredible power that is being displayed before him. Yuria grits her teeth in frustration, realizing she is being steadily overpowered. Alicia prepares to press her advantage, readying a final, devastating attack. Her dark energy connects with Yuria, sending her reeling once more. The brutal attack slams into the saint, throwing her backward through the air. She stumbles, her body battered and her balance lost from the powerful blow. Alicia suddenly stops her assault, holding up a single hand to pause. She gestures, calling a temporary halt to the battle between them. She turns her attention to Kuga, asking him what is wrong. Kuga sits silently in the rubble, Alicia looking towards him from the battlefield. He stands and calmly walks past a confused Alicia, approaching the fallen Yuria. Yuria looks up at him, her expression one of complete and utter shock. He places a hand on her shoulder, murmuring the incantation for heal. A gentle, green light envelopes Yuria, and her wounds instantly close. Alicia watches from a distance, her expression unreadable and perfectly still. She looks on with a mixture of confusion and a hint of hurt. Yuria looks up at her former comrade, whispering his name in disbelief. Kuga tells Yuria to wait, that he needs to speak with her. She is flustered, stammering in confusion about what he could possibly want. He clarifies that he is the one she should be confronting now. Yuria defiantly insists that she has not lost the fight yet. Kuga calmly agrees with her assessment of the current situation. He admits that neither side has shown even half of their true strength. He states that the outcome of their fight is not the real issue. He explains that after leaving Kumasei, he became Alicia's something. He apologizes to Alicia, declaring that he cannot let her get hurt. Yuria stares, her defiant composure beginning to crack at his words. Kuga and Yuria face each other as Alicia watches from a distance. Kuga is startled as Yuria suddenly begins to tremble with overwhelming emotion. Her eyes well up with tears, her face flushing with sadness and regret. She breaks down completely, wailing that Sarah is an idiot over and over. She runs hysterically around the battlefield, still crying out in frustration. Kuga and Alicia are stunned into silence by her sudden emotional outburst. Kuga is horrified as the chat fills with comments saying he made her cry. He wonders if he's the bad guy, recalling Yuria insisted Sarah was at fault. Alicia looks at Kuga with newfound empathy and quietly thanks him. The next day, Kuga and Alicia walk through the peaceful monster city. An establishing shot shows the grand, Gothic architecture of the monster city. Alicia declares with renewed excitement that she will recruit a subordinate. She addresses Kuga, who is sitting and listening patiently to her new plan. Kuga reflects that he isn't too concerned about Yuria's sudden attack. He knows she doesn't think deeply, so he wasn't worried about her. He holds his phone, recalling how he messaged her just to check in. The screen shows his text asking if she returned safely, and her simple "yeah" reply. Alicia explains her overarching plan to become an SS rank boss is proceeding. She declares that the next step in her grand ambition is to recruit a subordinate. Her checklist shows the next goal: recruit a subordinate S-rank boss. Kuga holds up the list, saying that's all well and good, but he points out the very specific requirement that it must be an S-rank boss. He asks her if she is absolutely sure this is also a condition. Alicia confirms with sparkling eyes that it is indeed correct. Kuga puts a thoughtful hand to his chin, pondering the implications. He realizes this means she would have to subjugate someone like Minotauros. Alicia shouts that such a thing is absolutely and completely impossible. A cute chibi panel shows her insisting that Minotauros is her dear friend. She declares with finality that she could never make a friend her subordinate. Kuga thinks again, wondering what their other options could possibly be. He pulls up a list of the currently known S-rank bosses. Narration explains there was originally only one, the powerful Lone Demon. After it was defeated, it miraculously split into 8 separate entities. Because of this, there are now always 8 S-rank bosses in existence. Defeating one is the promotion condition for an S-rank human party. For the A-rank Kuga, this has always been a daunting prospect. The realm of S-rank bosses was an unknown and uncharted territory for him. Kuga asks Alicia how exactly one goes about making a subordinate. She explains that it is basically up to their own free will. You must make them show their clear intent to submit to you. She adds that, for her specifically, there is another available method. Kuga correctly guesses that it involves sucking the target's blood. Alicia confirms it, but admits she doesn't really want to do that. Kuga is surprised, thinking for a moment that she is unexpectedly righteous. She clarifies that she just dislikes putting unappetizing blood in her mouth. Kuga is baffled by her strange reasoning, but decides to keep it to himself. He recalls how Alicia absorbed blood from her own tentacles during battle. A brief flashback shows the blood beating on her dark tentacle. She had dabbed a single drop on her finger just to taste it. Kuga theorizes her preference for his blood might be due to his blood type. He remembers hearing that mosquitoes are particularly drawn to typo blood. He realizes he's confusing Alicia with information he learned about insects. He shakes his head, deciding to get back to the topic at hand. He addresses Alicia, ready to move forward with their ambitious plan. He asks her directly who their target will be for the day. Alicia stands in the doorway, a mischievous laugh bubbling up from within. Turning to Kuga, she reveals that she has already made her decision. The scene shifts, showing a quiet Western-style house beneath a bright moon. They travel deep into the dungeon, arriving on the vast 32nd lower floor. This dungeon has upper floors that ascend from the surface towards the sky. It also features lower floors, descending from the ground into the earth. The difficulty of the upper and lower floors is almost perfectly symmetrical. For example, the challenge of the 15th upper floor is well known. It is roughly the same as the treacherous 15th lower floor. This unique structure has earned it the name the Twin-Headed Dungeon. Generally, the further one travels from the surface, the larger the floors become. Floors ending in 0 are safe zones where no monsters will ever appear. On these levels, humans have established entire camps and bustling towns. Alicia notes that her own hidden room is on the 43rd lower floor. The truly powerful S-rank bosses reside on the 45th floor and above. The 49th floor, however, is a special and even more dangerous domain. It is divided into 6 sections, 3 above and 3 below. One of the 6 mighty SS rank bosses guards each of these zones. However, The central upper section's throne now sits ominously empty. Once an SS rank boss is defeated by humans, they're never replaced. Kuga's foot lands firmly on the stone path, bringing them to a halt. He turns to Alicia, finally breaking the silence to ask her a question. With a curious look, he asks where exactly they are heading. They stand on a rugged outcrop, a typical underground dungeon landscape. The stream viewers, experts on dungeon geography, already know the answer. A single word flashes across the chat, identifying the floor's inhabitants. That's right. Alicia confirms with a grin, seeing the comment. She announces that today they will raid the infamous Kobold colony. Her eyes gleam with excitement as she vows to wipe them all out. The plan is simple: conquer the colony and make them all her subordinates. But just as she's about to charge, Kuga's hand stops her. "Hey, Kuga," she begins before he cuts her off with a quiet gem. He points ahead, having spotted a lone human woman in the distance. Alicia immediately asks if he's going to hunt this new target. Kuga replies that his decision will depend entirely on the woman's actions. He explains his rule. He won't attack those without hostility to monsters, though he admits it's impossible to know her intent at this moment. Alicia muses that an explorer without malice towards monsters would be rare. Kuga agrees, acknowledging that the reverse is also unfortunately true. He finds it strange that she's exploring completely on her own. She isn't flying a streaming drone or any other kind of familiar. While solo exploration isn't unheard of, it is certainly unusual. Unlike Yuria, this girl doesn't carry herself with a warrior's confidence. She seems lost, wandering through the desolate landscape with a vacant air. It doesn't appear as though she is here with any clear purpose. Her eyes seem unfocused, lost in a world of their own. Suddenly, a magical aura fades around her as she deactivates her auto-revive. "What is she doing?" Alicia asks, but Kuga knows this is very bad. His expression hardens as he realizes this might be a suicide attempt. He explains that only a revivalist can deactivate their own revive magic. The revivalist is the sole job class capable of casting auto-revive magic, and that very revivalist is now willingly removing her own safety net. To clarify, the ability to undo one's own revive spell is unique. It is a power possessed only by those of the revivalist class. Typically, explorers must visit a special company before entering a dungeon. There, they pay an insurance fee for the life-saving revive spell. A revivalist employed by the company then casts the magic upon them. This guarantees their revival upon death, granting them entry to the dungeon. The dungeon's gates have magical checkpoints that confirm the spell's presence. The revivalist is the only one who can bypass this by deactivating it inside. It's an incredibly rare job, making it a strange sight in a dungeon. A viewer thanks the person in chat who provided the detailed explanation. Alicia nods, also thanking the helpful explanation bro for the information. "Kuga bro," she says, grabbing his arm, "we have to do this." With such a precious and rare job, she declares she must make her a subordinate. "Hey, revivalist," Alicia shouts, charging forward. "Don't be rash." The viewers are amazed by the vampire's incredible, impulsive decisiveness. The girl is shocked, as the comments recall Alicia's recent ruthlessness. Seeing a monster rushing towards her, the girl panics and begins to run. Alicia says, realizing her approach might have been too aggressive. Holding up a hand, she tells the fleeing girl to wait a moment. Shadowy tentacles erupt from the ground, shooting towards the girl. She lets out a startled cry as they wrap around her body. A terrified shriek escapes her lips as she is completely ensnared. "Whoops!" Alicia mutters as a panicked Kuga shouts her name. The vampire admits that she can't help wanting to hunt a fleeing target. Kuga quickly summons a comical bear graphic to censor the unfolding scene. "Excuse me," he says politely to the hovering drone and its audience. He announces that they will be temporarily suspending the broadcast. Why? A confused viewer immediately asks in the live chat. The other viewers speculate that something sensitive might be happening. A message appears on screen. The broadcast has ended. On the ground, the girl flails, shouting for them not to stop her. She begs them to just put her out of her misery right now. Alicia says, holding up a hand to calm the situation. She coolly states she isn't interested in why the girl wants to quit. But, she adds with a wicked grin, why not drown in pleasure first? The girl is completely flustered, stammering in confusion at the strange offer. Alicia then asks a bizarre question. Do you happen to like dogs? The girl admits that, to be honest, she likes them quite a lot. Alicia lifts the girl into the air with her shadowy appendages. That's wonderful, the vampire exclaims, her plan coming together. She grabs the girl's hand firmly, a new destination in mind. With a triumphant thumbs up, she declares they are going to a dog paradise. When the stream resumes, the girl introduces herself as Kushina. Alicia asks if Kushina knows who she and Kugo are. Kushina politely apologizes, admitting that she does not recognize them. She asks if they are perhaps some kind of famous streamers. Alicia laughs, saying it's perfectly fine if she doesn't know. Besides, she adds, she has no idea how famous they are either. On the live feed, a viewer's comment pops up, noting their growing fame. Alicia is delighted to learn they are the hottest topic in streaming. Kushina, however, remains completely oblivious to the online world. Setting their fame aside, Alicia announces they must choose a dog paradise. Kushina is utterly bewildered, asking what a dog paradise could possibly be. With a cheerful "just watch," Alicia dashes ahead, leading the strange tour. Their first stop is a rocky cave inhabited by fluffy, poodle-like creatures. Alicia considers the location for a moment before dismissing it as underwhelming. The second potential paradise is a desolate wasteland populated by fierce wolfkin. Next, they survey a grand, fairy tale castle guarded by regal, armored hounds. Alicia finds this option a little too regrettable for her demonic tastes. Their final destination is a serene, Japanese-style temple guarded by two figures. Alicia's eyes light up, thinking this place might be just right. She turns to Kuga, asking if he doesn't find it charming. He agrees, noting that it has a pleasant, calming atmosphere. Then it's decided, Alicia declares, clapping her hands together happily. She then turns her attention to the quiet and confused revivalist. A horrifying realization slowly begins to dawn on Kushina. She realizes the two guards are not dogs, but monsters. Alicia casually confirms that this is, in fact, a kobold colony. Kushina screams, finally understanding the vampire's twisted definition of dog paradise. Alicia grins, asking if she isn't happy to get to pet the kobolds. A nearby kobold guard lets out a series of adorable, welcoming barks. The entrance to the temple is guarded by these fluffy sentries. It seems the appearance of kobolds can vary greatly between colonies. Perhaps their unique look is related to the Japanese-style temple they inhabit. These particular kobolds look uncannily like plump Shiba Inu dogs. Their chubby cheeks seem almost impossibly cute and inviting. Kushina is completely overwhelmed by their sheer, weaponized adorableness. All of her previous anxiety and fear simply melts away in their presence. It seems no one can resist the primal urge to pet them. She is lost in a state of pure, fluffy bliss. Her hands twitch with an overwhelming desire to pet their soft fur. As she stares, mesmerized, a kobold sneaks up behind her. It suddenly lunges forward, sinking its teeth into her arm. Kuga reacts instantly, pulling it off, only for it to latch onto him. He winces in pain as its sharp teeth dig into his hand. Alicia praises his save, reminding them that the cute creatures are ferocious. Overcome with guilt, Kushina apologizes profusely to Kuga. Alicia helpfully reveals that the kobold's weakness is their throat. Apparently, a good scratch under the chin will completely subdue them. As a distraction, Alicia casually tosses several teddy bears onto the ground. With the creatures occupied, she announces that it's time to attack. But before they can move, Kushina timidly calls out to Kuga. She looks with great concern at his bleeding, wounded hand. She apologizes again, feeling deeply responsible for his injury. Kuga tries to wave it off, insisting that it's not a big deal. She vehemently disagrees, insisting that it is not fine at all. She pleads with him to let her see his arm. He hesitantly extends his injured limb towards her. She gently takes his hand, preparing to cast her magic. Closing her eyes, she murmurs a single word, heal. A warm, gentle light envelopes his arm, the wound vanishing instantly. Kuga is impressed, noting her magic feels warmer than his own. She explains this is the first time she has ever healed another person. Her life has been an endless cycle of casting only auto-revive. Kuga looks at her with a profound, newfound understanding. She smiles brightly, declaring his hand is all better now. He thanks her for her help, and she shyly returns the sentiment. For a moment, a quiet, gentle understanding passes between them. Kushina then worries if Alicia will be all right fighting the colony alone. Kuga simply reassures her that the vampire will be just fine. A cheerful voice suddenly calls out to them from the temple grounds. Alicia pouts, demanding to know why they didn't come to help. Kuga gives Kushina a knowing, "I told you so" look. The vampire complains that they were taking far too long. She is lounging victoriously in a massive pile of adoring, subjugated kobolds. A viewer on the stream comments on how incredibly fast she works. Another Riley notes how it became a healing stream, prompting Kuga's apology. He offers another weary apology to his unseen, critical audience. With the battle over, a quiet peace settles over the temple grounds. The three of them, now, walk peacefully among the pacified creatures. Kushina finally gets her wish, happily petting one of the fluffy kobolds. Kuga pauses the live broadcast to ask Kushina a serious question. She turns to him, her expression attentive and ready to listen. He asks her directly why she had deactivated her revive magic. She quietly admits that the security of her job is the very problem. Kuga looks at her, not quite understanding her reasoning. She wonders aloud why she ever chose such a stable, predictable life. She chose security by joining one of the major revive insurance companies. The pay was good and the work environment was completely stress-free. But her life became a monotonous, soul-crushing cycle of repetition. Day after day, she would cast the exact same spell. Even if she skipped a day, she knew tomorrow would be no different. Her entire existence had been reduced to a single, repetitive purpose. It was a life lived entirely for the sake of others. She understood her duty, but the burden became too much to bear. She finally admits that she has grown tired of living for others. She quickly clarifies an important point, lest they misunderstand. She insists that she was never actually planning to end her life. Kuga understands she had just been feeling a bit reckless. She was perhaps just seeking some kind of thrill or excitement. He understands her plight on a deeply personal level. The safety net provided by auto-revive has changed the world. It lowered the barrier to entry for aspiring dungeon explorers. This quickly transformed a dangerous calling into a form of entertainment. The job of revivalist, therefore, carries its own unique curse. While many find the prestigious role rewarding and fulfilling, there are also those like Kushina who feel trapped by it. Seeing her chance, Alicia steps forward with an irresistible offer. Kushina stares in wide-eyed shock at the unexpected proposal. She stammers, asking what they could possibly mean by subordinate. Kuga gently suggests that she may not have realized their true nature. With a proud smile, Alicia announces that she is a monster. The revelation hits Kushina with the force of a physical blow. She mutters that while the wings were odd, she never suspected this. Still processing, she turns her confused gaze towards Kuga. When she asks what he is, he simply states that he's human. The full, bizarre reality of the situation finally dawns on her. Squeezing her eyes shut, Kushina prepares to deliver her final answer. She shouts that she is sorry, but she absolutely cannot accept. A stunned Alicia and Kuga ask in unison why she is refusing. She explains that becoming a monster subordinate is just too much. Her ultimate, unassailable reason is that her mother would get angry. Alicia's shoulders slump in dejection, accepting the simple explanation. Kuga thinks to himself that her mother would be angrier about other things. But Kushina isn't finished. Her tone shifts from refusal to admiration. She smiles, saying it's amazing that such reckless people exist. Kuga agrees with a chuckle, confirming that Alicia is truly reckless. Alicia glares at Kuga from behind, annoyed at being called out. A newfound inspiration sparks within Kushina as she clenches her fist. She decides that she, too, wants to change her monotonous life. With a radiant smile, she declares she will try to break her shell. Alicia, seizing the moment, again asks her to become a subordinate. Kushina panics, yelling that it's impossible. Her mother would be mad. Alicia is once again dejected by the polite but firm refusal. And so, Alicia succeeded in subjugating the entire kobold colony. But her attempt to recruit Kushina as a subordinate had failed. A single footstep marks their return to the city streets. After their adventure, the duo returned to the bustling monster city. They walked through a market piled high with items from defeated explorers. Alicia's hand reaches into a pile to grab a shiny blue apple. She holds up two of the apples with a bright, cheerful smile. Kuga steps forward, insisting that she let him pay for them. She is confused, telling him it's fine, but he is adamant. He explains that their stream has been generating a decent income. Alicia is baffled by the word incentive, which he clarifies is money. She is utterly shocked to learn their hobby is also a business. Kuga explains that the more viewers they have, the more they earn. He muses aloud that he never thought they had so many viewers. At least, not before Alicia had joined him on the stream. With a kind smile, he asks that she pay with her own earnings. Alicia stares at him, her expression softening as she takes in his words. With a slight blush, she looks away and quietly agrees to his request. At the stall, Kuga asks the vendor if they accept MayPay. If her physical cash runs out, it would become a problem. She'd have to return to the human world, and she asks what MayPay is. Kuga confirms it, while Alicia finds the whole concept strange. He then decides to ask a question that has been on his mind. He asks how exactly she receives her daily stipend of money. Alicia looks at him, momentarily confused by the sudden question. She reaches into her pocket with a slight rustling sound. She pulls out a crisp 1,000 yen bill, saying it's this. She explains that 5 of these bills magically appear in her pocket daily. Kuga is amazed, realizing she has a daily wage of 5,000 yen. He decides he still must return to the human world eventually. He thanks the vendor and prepares to pay for the apples in cash. He apologizes and says he will pay, but the vendor stops him. The monster tells him that they can, in fact, use the app. The lizard-like vendor confirms coolly that they do accept MayPay. Both Kuga and Alicia stare, completely flabbergasted by this revelation. The rooftops of the technologically advanced monster city are shown. Alicia skips along the path, exclaiming that she can't believe it. She marvels that such magic is possible, holding up a phone. She decides she must check her life manual later for other surprises. Kuga then brings up another, more personal matter. He explains that he needs to eat more than her, especially iron. Alicia is completely baffled by the concept of needing iron. She doesn't understand, but agrees to go along with him anyway. A massive, delicious-looking platter of food is laid out before them. Alicia is shocked, asking if he is really going to eat that much. Later, as they walk, Kuga changes the subject once again. He asks what she and the kobolds discussed after subjugating them. Alicia holds out her hand, telling him it was this. She reveals a silver ring given by the kobolds to summon her. Kuga immediately understands that it is a type of summoning item. He cheekily points out this means the kobolds can summon her. Alicia blushes slightly, but confirms that this is indeed correct. Kuga continues to tease her, suggesting she is now their subordinate. Alicia glares down at him, annoyed by his playful insinuation. She fumes, asking if he thinks she'd serve them just for their fluff. Kuga is surprised, asking if that wasn't, in fact, the case. Alicia concedes that their fluffiness is indeed a supreme pleasure, but she insists that is not the only purpose of the ring. She holds the artifact aloft, explaining its other powerful function. She can also use it to summon the kobolds to her side. In a flash of light, the burly kobold boss appears, saying woof woof. Alicia apologizes, explaining it was just a test to see if it worked. The muscular kobold boss stands before them, simply saying woof. It is explained that the kobold can understand words but cannot speak. Alicia introduces him as the boss of that particular colony. She then trails off uncertainly as she tries to ask for his name. The kobold boss simply replies with another enthusiastic woof. Alicia and Kuga stand in awkward silence for a brief moment. They decide his name must be Kobold, and the boss seems to agree. Kuga dryly suspects they just made that name up on the spot. Alicia apologizes again, telling the kobold he can go home now. She waves goodbye as the kobold begins to dematerialize from the circle. The creature vanishes in a pillar of light with a final woof. Kuga smiles, admitting that being able to summon them is very useful. With a proud smile, Alicia explains her summoning has a cooldown period. Kuga understands that her powerful ability cannot be used unconditionally. Besides, she adds, there's another purpose for her new subordinates. She hints that the kobolds have a very important, secret role to play. Kuga notes her happy expression, though he doesn't know the secret. But understanding that role would be a story for a little later. They arrive back at Alicia's charming, temporary home in the monster city. As they stand outside, Alicia calls out to Kuga, getting his attention. She asks if other people are streaming, besides just the two of them. Kuga confirms that yes, many other explorers broadcast their adventures. A spark of excitement lights up Alicia's face. She wants to watch them. Can we see one? She asks, her curiosity now fully ignited. Kuga agrees, while Alicia declares with glee that she wants to watch. All right, he says, moving to a large monitor to fulfill her request. Alicia peeks eagerly over the top of the screen as it comes to life. They happen to be on right now, Kuga notes, as a familiar channel appears. Alicia lets out a gasp of recognition, while Kuga stares in silence. That girl! Alicia exclaims, recognizing the saint from their previous encounter. She turns to Kuga, asking if this is the party that cast him out. With a heavy heart, Kuga quietly confirms that it is indeed them. For the first time since his betrayal, he watches a Kumasi stream. The first thing he notices is that there has been a significant change. A new member, a priestess with glasses, has joined their ranks. What does this mean? Kuga wonders, stunned by the sight of his replacement. Alicia, looking at the screen with a critical eye, begins to ask a question. She asks if these are truly his former comrades, sensing something is off. Kuga confirms again, though he shares her doubts about the scene unfolding. Alicia observes that for all their gear, the party seems to lack spirit. Kuga watches, a bead of sweat on his brow, unable to disagree. On the stream, it was clear that Alicia's assessment was correct. The party finds themselves facing a pair of powerful skeleton warriors. One of the skeletal monsters points, signaling the start of the attack. A blur of motion signifies the clash of steel against bone. Sarah, the sword saint, parries a blow, his face grim with effort. As he engages one skeleton, the second one moves to flank him. Sarah glances over his shoulder, caught by surprise by the pincer movement. The second skeleton brings its massive blade down on the preoccupied swordsman. Sarah manages to block the devastating blow, but is sent staggering back. He grunts in pain, the force of the impact rattling him. These were A-rank monsters, the formidable twin skeletons. The battle had become a chaotic and desperate struggle for survival. From the back line, Makari calls out to the new healer, saying, Yuria, the saint, declares her intent to charge to the front lines. No, Saiyan cuts her off, calling her aggressive plan a foolish one. Yuria is stunned into silence, her confidence visibly shaken by the rebuke. Saiyan lectures her on proper strategy, stating that the healer must be protected. Frustrated, Yuria tries to argue, but is silenced by the cold logic. In the chaos, Sarah is struck by a skeleton, crying out in agony. Not good, Saiyan remarks calmly, before casting a quick healing spell. The stream's viewers praise her incredible speed and prestigious training. However, one commenter notes that the fight seems to be dragging on. Yuria can only watch from the sidelines, hesitant and visibly troubled. Mikari unleashes a powerful buff, Holy Knight, to aid the front line. Empowered by her magic, Sarah charges forward to press the attack. His strike connects, shattering one of the twin skeletons completely. Saiyan offers a condescending, "Don't worry," as if scolding a child. Mikari calls out Yuria's name with concern, seeing her friend's distress. The enchanter tries to reassure her, telling her to calm down. "I know," Yuria replies, her voice heavy with unspoken frustration. Saiyan then turns her attention to the support mage, Mikari. She reminds Mikari that her buffs are about to expire and must be reapplied. Mikari, flustered, says she will start by reapplying them to Sarah. Saiyan interrupts with a patronizing smile. "That's a foolish plan." Mikari is shocked into silence, her face a mask of disbelief. Saiyan continues her lecture, stating the healer must be buffed first. She addresses the audience, asking them not to blame the party for their flaws. With a dismissive air, she asks if Yuria and Mikari are all right. The two girls look miserable, Mikari weakly saying they'll improve. The live chat devolves into a heated argument, defending and attacking Saiyan. "Understood," Mikari says, her voice tight with barely concealed irritation. Sarah grits his teeth, his knuckles white as he grips his sword in fury. Back in a monster city, Kuga and Alicia continue to watch. Alicia looks closely at Yuria's image on the screen, a thoughtful frown on her face. She remarks that the saints seemed quite a bit stronger when they fought. Kuga agrees that might be true, before Alicia has a sudden, bright idea. Leaning close to the screen, she asks if it's possible for her to comment. Surprised, Kuga confirms that yes, viewers can post comments. Alicia's eyes light up. She wants to cheer for the skeletons. Kuga is baffled by her reasoning, but Alicia just asks how to do it. He explains the voice and text options, completely forgetting a crucial detail. "I see," Alicia says, fascinated by the technology. Kuga decides to demonstrate, tapping the screen to bring up the text input. On the screen, the comment begins to form, preceded by his username. Ah crap, Kuga realizes his mistake a second too late. A jolt of pure panic flashes across his face. He sent it by accident. The comment, "Kuga, go for it," appears live on the stream. Yuria's eyes go wide, her face a mask of shock as she sees his name. Mikari's mouth falls open, her expression mirroring Yuria's disbelief. Sarah stares at the screen, his expression frozen, utterly speechless. Yuria turns to Mikari, who can only manage a stunned sound of agreement. The live chat explodes, identifying Kuga as the outcast streaming with a monster. Yuria looks down, whispering an apology to her friend. Her hand tightens into a fist, trembling with a storm of emotions. The stream feed seems to flicker with a sudden, overwhelming tension. Yuria closes her eyes in pain, thinking she was right about this all along. Suddenly, both she and Mikari are startled by a sound from the front line. A blur of motion signals a sudden, violent movement. A primal roar of pure rage erupts from Sarah's throat. He unleashes a furious, spinning assault upon the remaining skeleton. "Don't you dare look down on me," he screams, his fury finally boiling over. On the Kumasi Eye stream, the battle reached a sudden, violent end. The twin skeleton monsters shattered into 1,000 pieces. Only dust and broken fragments remained on the cavern floor. Watching from afar, Alicia pouted that her cheering had doomed her skeleton friends. Sarah, having taken an uncharacteristic risk, had managed to secure the victory. As Kuga and Alicia watched, The narration noted Kumasiai's difficult fight. For Kuga, however, his old friend's furious reaction was deeply unsettling. This feeling sent his mind spiraling back to where their story began, high school. It was the start of a new term in their third and final year. The classroom seating had been decided mechanically, purely by alphabetical order. By a simple twist of fate, Kuga was seated next to Sarah. The boy next to him was the effortlessly charming Sarah. Kuga already knew exactly who Sarah was, of course. Even back then, his blonde hair made him stand out. He was a prominent figure, the center of their entire grade. His blonde hair was against the rules, but he was special. He was a master of academics and athletics, easily charming the teachers. His unique status was something everyone had simply come to accept, and this very same Sarah was now sitting right beside him. Kuga, by contrast, had always been a quiet, background character. His heart pounded nervously when Sarah turned to confirm his name. Sarah smiled brightly, extending a hand and saying it was nice to meet him. Kuga, completely flustered, could only stammer a greeting in return. Sarah was the genuine article, a truly popular and sunny person. He would cheerfully call out, asking Kuga to go to the school store. To Kuga's surprise, Sarah treated him like a genuine, close friend. Basking in that bright aura, Kuga himself started to feel more positive. When Sarah asked him to go to the bathroom, Kuga told him to go alone. Sarah just laughed, playfully complaining that it would be lonely. He would wait after school, asking Kuga to walk home with him. Though Sarah had many other friends, he was always good to Kuga. In fact, he spent a great deal of his time with him. Their final year of high school passed by in an instant. Soon, it seemed they were destined to go their separate ways. Kuga quietly resigned himself to their friendship coming to an end. But then, just one day before their graduation ceremony, Kuga was surprised to receive an invitation to a group chat from Sarah. It was a group of about 10 of the most prominent students in their class. Of all of them, Sarah was the only one Kuga had truly spoken to. He felt completely out of place, like he didn't belong. But to his surprise, the other students warmly welcomed him. It was in this chat that he first met Yuria and Mikari. He was surprised to see Yuria, who was known for being unapproachable. It seemed she and the cheerful Mikari were actually good friends. For the others, this was just one of many friendly chat groups. But for Kuga, it was his one and only connection to his classmates. One day, Sarah posted a message asking who wanted to stream Dungeons. Kuga looked up from his book, the idea catching him by surprise. He had been feeling lost and hesitated for only a moment. He stared at the message, a new path opening before him. Wanting to support his friend, Kuga accepted the offer immediately. Once Kuga joined, Yuria surprisingly announced her participation as well. Not wanting Yuria to be the only girl, Mikari quickly followed. And when they actually started, Kuga found he truly enjoyed it. He couldn't quite explain why, but the experience was simply fun. He got to see new sides not just of Sarah, but of the girls too. One day, Sarah announced it was time to decide on a channel name. Mikari responded with enthusiasm, thinking it was a wonderful idea. Sarah asked the group what kind of name they thought would be good. He suggested the cliché idea of using a syllable from each of their names. Sarah offered the first syllable of his own name, Say. Mikari followed, offering up the sound Mi. Kuga then contributed his own syllable, Ku. Finally, Yuria hesitantly offered Yu, though she seemed unsure. Sarah then asked if they could combine those sounds into a good name. He playfully put Kuga on the spot, asking if he had any ideas. Kuga thought for a moment, admitting he couldn't come up with much. He sheepishly suggested Kumizimi, the name of a type of cicada. He explained it was a bit of a stretch, but Sarah loved it immediately. Sarah turned to Yuria, asking if she was okay with the name. Yuria looked at Kuga and replied that if he suggested it, she would accept. And just like that, their channel name was decided in a moment of easy friendship. As they streamed, Sarah's handsome looks and charisma drew in viewers. Mikari's bubbly personality and welcoming nature also proved very popular. And Yuria's beauty combined with her fierce fighting style was a huge hit. Slowly but surely, their subscriber count began to climb. Their once joked about dream of becoming famous was now becoming a reality. Kuga was resolute. He would not allow their dream to end. This goal became his singular focus, and he trained relentlessly. He pushed his body to its absolute limits in the gym. He devoured books on dungeon theory, studying day and night. He honed his combat skills, practicing until he was exhausted. For the first time in his life, he was truly dedicated to something. The training was often grueling, pushing him past his breaking point. There were times he felt he couldn't go on, but somehow, he always found the strength to continue. His one motivation was to protect them, to ensure they never had to retreat. He held that purpose deep within his heart as they explored. That purpose was finally tested against their first B-rank monster, an orc. The battle that followed was the most ferocious they had ever faced. After a long and desperate struggle, they finally cornered the beast. But the orc, in a final act of defiance, raised its axe. It hurled the massive weapon with all its remaining strength. Sarah, caught in the line of fire, looked on in shock. The axe flew directly towards his defenseless form. He was frozen, unable to react in time. His eyes widened in terror as the blow was about to land. At that moment, Kuga, who was then a simple warrior, reached out, his body a blur of motion. He threw himself in front of Sarah, taking the fatal blow himself. In a past battle, Kuga threw himself in front of Sarah to protect him. He collapsed to the ground, certain that this was the end for him. The wound he received in his abdomen was incredibly deep and surely fatal. His party, Kumisai, gathered around him, their one fatal flaw laid bare. The group's greatest and most critical weakness was their lack of a healer. Though aware of the issue, none were suitable, and they never sought another member. But in that desperate moment, as Kuga's life faded, something began to change. As he fell, the jobstone within him began to glow with brilliant light. A blinding flash of pure, magical energy erupted from his very soul. He had saved a life, and his job was reborn into that of a hero. Kneeling in a magic circle, Kuga instinctively cast a healing spell upon himself. He looked up, his own eyes wide with surprise at his miraculous new power. Just like that, the party Kumisai had finally obtained a dedicated healer. Overcome with emotion, Yuria and Mikari rushed to him, weeping with pure relief. Kuga smiled, filled with joy at the thought of protecting his friends. But it was this chance acquisition of a healer that would prove to be a curse. This very event would ultimately hinder the party's future growth and development. This is what Kuga was thinking, lost in the depths of his own memories. A title page shows Alicia and Minotauros enjoying a bountiful fruit harvest. Back in the present, Kuga stares out over the beautiful monster city. His expression is distant and weary, clearly lost in thought. Alicia calls out his name, snapping him out of his contemplative reverie. She asks what is wrong, noting his unusually serious and pensive face. Kuga simply shakes his head, dismissing her concern by saying it is nothing. She playfully tells him to get a grip as she runs on ahead. He and Alicia stand together, a comment box showing the word "Gone Bear." He is still feeling the lingering aftereffects of yesterday's accidental stream comment. Alicia spots a figure in the distance and wonders aloud who it could be. It is Minotauros, prompting the live chat to wonder about a collaboration. Alicia waves cheerfully, but Minotauros lets out a terrified shriek. She asks why he seems so surprised, calling him Vampire-chan in his panic. He nervously insists that it is nothing as the two of them walk away. Alicia watches him go, her expression filled with deep suspicion. She tells him that she can tell from his face that he is hiding something. With a confident look, she declares that she can see right through him. Minotauros, his eyes swirling with anxiety, weakly insists that is not the case. Kuga smiles, knowing he is a terrible liar, as viewers call Mino-chan cute. Alicia tells him not to be so distant, reminding him that they are friends. She points at him, asking if he doesn't consider them to be his allies. Touched by her words, the Minotaur blushes and urges her to speak her mind. He sighs in resignation, admitting she is right and agreeing to finally talk. He leans in to explain, saying that the truth of the matter is, the stream viewers grow curious, wondering what his big secret could be. Minotauros quietly confesses that he is currently the victim of a stalker. The viewers are immediately outraged, declaring that such an act is unforgivable. Kuga is shocked as a comment appears, demanding that he catch the criminal. Alicia's face contorts into a mask of pure rage upon hearing the news. She declares that such a despicable act is absolutely unforgivable. Clenching her fist, she reassures Mino-chan that everything will be all right. She vows that she and Kuga will be the ones to stop the stalker. Minotauros, his eyes wide with hope, asks if she is being serious. Kuga and Alicia smile warmly, Alicia assuring him that it is no joke. With a deep sigh of relief, Minotauros is glad he can finally go home. He explains that he has felt a suspicious presence following him for days. This is why he was avoiding the crowded main streets earlier today. Kuga wonders why his powerful friend doesn't just crush the stalker himself. He notes the viewer's strange and immediate condemnation of the unknown culprit. In time, the trio finally arrives at Minotauros' impressive home. His house is a grand residence, 3 times the size of Alicia's own. He says he ran out in a panic, but was worried about his plants. He gently waters his vegetable patch, glad he did not forget about them. Water pours from the watering can, nourishing the small, growing vegetables. He was truly worried, as he had raised them all with such care. The vegetables would surely wither if they missed even one day of water. He repeats how they would have withered without his constant, careful attention. The viewers are deeply touched, vowing to support such a kind soul. One comment states they would cheer for Mino-chan if anyone tried to defeat him. Alicia, in a cute chibi form, seems to agree with the sentiment. She laughs, saying she knew they would understand her friend's inherent kindness. Suddenly, a pair of menacing, glowing eyes appears in the darkness. Minotauros looks up, his body tense and sweating with fear. Alicia's expression becomes serious, her eyes wide as she senses the danger. Kuga is also on high alert, his face tense and prepared for a fight. Alicia asks Mino-chan if this is the presence he was feeling before. She asks him if this is the stalker they have been discussing. He confirms it is, noting the presence feels much stronger than before. Alicia takes command, ordering Kuga to immediately scout the perimeter. She tells a frightened Minotauros to stick close to them for safety. Kuga takes a firm step forward, ready to move out and investigate. Minotauros jumps back in fear as a new figure suddenly appears before them. Kuga and Alicia stand before a tall, imposing, and powerful werewolf. The stream chat immediately recognizes him as a new S-rank werewolf boss. Alicia asks if he is the one who recently replaced the defeated salamander. She floats in the air, demanding to know what the werewolf wants here. She asks him what business he has with her precious friend, Mino-chan. He coolly explains he was just monitoring Minotauros for any potential threats. Alicia is confused by his seemingly benevolent and protective explanation. The werewolf asserts that only he is worthy of protecting Minotauros. Minotauros lets out a terrified squeak, clearly very afraid of the werewolf. He stammers that he does not know the werewolf and wants him to leave. The werewolf simply calls him shy, adding that he finds that part cute. Kuga and Alicia are horrified as viewers scream for Mino-chan to escape. The werewolf then questions why Minotauros is associating with a mere human. Minotauros looks back at him, confused and flustered by the question. The werewolf asks why he would be involved with a human like Kuga. He warns that such relationships will only tarnish his S-rank dignity. The werewolf glares disapprovingly at Kuga, who stands beside the Minotaur. Minotauros' hands begin to tremble, not with fear, but with building rage. He lets out a sharp gasp, his patience having finally reached its limit. He roars at the werewolf, demanding he stop speaking ill of his friends. From the shadows, the piercing eyes of Minotauros' stalker appeared before them. Alicia's own eyes widened with concern as she whispered her friend's name. The handsome werewolf emerged, calmly telling Minotauros that everything was fine now. He claimed the weak Minotauros was brainwashed, but the gentle giant insisted he was wrong. The werewolf launched into a dramatic speech, recalling how he fell in love at first sight. For a time, they were forced to endure the stalker's one-sided, rambling confession. Minotauros, utterly exasperated, finally asked if he was done talking yet. The werewolf smoothly announced his withdrawal for the day, promising they would meet again. Minotauros sighed, admitting that he was the one who was completely put off by this. The werewolf looked shocked by the rejection, earning a mocking comment from the viewers. He stepped onto a glowing magic circle, preparing to make his dramatic exit. With a brilliant flash of light, the strange admirer vanished completely. Kuga, Alicia, and Minotauros stared blankly at the spot where he had been. Alicia turned to Kuga, her expression suddenly serious as she called his name. He asked what was wrong, and she declared that she had made a decision. Her eyes burned with a new, wild purpose as she made a stunning announcement. She was going to make that very werewolf her subordinate. Kuga was horrified, thinking to himself that this was a terrible idea. Their new destination was a grand, Gothic castle under a full moon. Alicia pointed towards the fortress, telling Kuga that this was the place. As they approached, Kuga confirmed that this must be the werewolf's castle. They had arrived on the dungeon's 45th lower floor, deep in S-rank territory. Alicia sprinted up the castle steps, her decisive action earning praise from the stream. Kuga followed, a viewer noting the werewolf was surely not expecting an immediate invasion. This was the first time they had ever launched a sudden assault on an S-rank boss. Kuga felt a pang of nervousness, wondering if their strength would be enough. Alicia, however, was brimming with confidence, deciding to just barge right in. They stood before the imposing main doors of the werewolf's fortress. With a mighty thud, Alicia slammed her palm against the heavy wood. The doors exploded inwards, revealing the two invaders standing in the entryway. Two werewolf guards inside were stunned, demanding to know who was there. Alicia floated into the grand hall, introducing herself as a vampire to the guards. She wore a smug, predatory grin, relishing their confusion. She declared her purpose, to make the boss of this castle her subordinate. Enraged, the werewolf guards called her an invader and vowed to protect their master. The entire pack surged forward, a tide of claws and snapping jaws. Alicia moved like a phantom, effortlessly dodging their ferocious assault. She floated above the guards as they cried out in pain from her swift counterattacks. She calmly assessed their strength, finding them moderately powerful. While their individual might was unimpressive, she noted their considerable numbers. A sharp glint in her eye showed she had a plan to even the odds. She raised her hand, and the silver ring given to her by the kobolds began to glow. A massive summoning circle erupted on the floor, confusing the stream viewers. The intricate runes spread across the hall, pulsing with immense magical energy. A tidal wave of fluffy, purple kobolds burst forth, barking with adorable fury. At their head stood the proud kobold boss, surrounded by his loyal troops. The werewolf guards stared in disbelief, a viewer asking if it was a summon. The kobold boss gave a single, respectful woof to his new master. Alicia smirked at her adorable army and gave the simple command to attack. The kobold leader touched his chest, promising to provide his full support. His paw glowed with a sparkling light as he cast a powerful reinforcement spell. The enhancement magic washed over his fluffy troops, making them formidable. Kuga watched in awe, recognizing the powerful buffing effect. The kobold boss declared this a moment of great fortune and blessing. Kuga was utterly stunned by this unexpected turn of events. He panicked internally, realizing the kobold had just spoken with a handsome voice. Alicia addressed the kobold leader, telling him she was counting on him. The boss acknowledged her command, turning to face her directly. He stated, however, that he had just one condition for his service. He formally requested that his name, from this day forward, B10. A hilariously flustered Alicia quickly agreed to the strange request. Wano turned to his fluffy battalion and roared for them to advance. He declared that they would now fight to repay their debt to their master. The entire army of Shiba Inu-like warriors let out a unified, enthusiastic bark. The stream chat exploded with hype for the adorable Shiba Inu troops. Alicia and Kuga stood ready as their new army prepared for battle. She told Kuga to leave the guards to the Wanos and follow her deeper inside. Kuga, still slightly bewildered, quickly agreed and followed her lead. They passed through halls of ornate, Gothic architecture. They raced up the grand staircase, leaving the sounds of battle far behind. Bursting through the final doors, they found the werewolf lounging on a sofa. Alicia greeted him with a mocking grin, saying they meet again. The werewolf chuckled, admitting he never expected her to actually come to him. He struck a dramatic pose, declaring his sole, legitimate right to court Minotauros. The stream viewers immediately began mocking his possessive and delusional claims. Kuga's attention, however, was drawn past the posturing boss. He spotted a small, fairy-like girl chained to the side of the throne. Alicia's playful expression vanished, replaced by shock as she asked who the child was. The werewolf nonchalantly referred to the girl as an interesting hobby. Alicia was disgusted, asking if he planned to restrain Minotauros in the same way. The werewolf furiously denied it, screaming that the girl was special. Having heard enough, Alicia ordered Kuga to get the child to safety. She asked if he was okay with the plan, her eyes fixed on the werewolf. She turned her back to Kuga, declaring that she would handle this monster herself. Kuga agreed without hesitation and moved to free the captive girl. He raised his sword high, preparing to shatter her chains. The metal links exploded as the girl looked up in wide-eyed surprise. Kuga scooped her up, promising to return after taking her somewhere safe. As they vanished, Alicia taunted the werewolf, saying it was time for his punishment. Kuga landed softly in a quiet antechamber, far from the fight. The small girl landed beside him, finally free from her bonds. He gently asked if she was all right, and she quietly confirmed that she was. Kuga let out a small sigh of relief. The girl looked up at him, noting that he seemed to be able to speak. She looked down at her own tattered, werewolf-themed clothes. She murmured that her own appearance was somehow unsettling to her. Kuga smiled kindly and offered her his own warm cloak. He gestured for her to come closer, his expression gentle. She shyly accepted his offer, her small hands clutching the fabric. For a moment, a quiet act of kindness bloomed in the heart of the chaotic castle. Alicia charges the werewolf, a blur of motion and destructive force. The werewolf grunts, bracing himself against her furious initial assault. Viewers cheer, excited for the first ever serious monster versus monster battle. The two powerful monsters face off amidst the dust and debris. A viewer notes the unique appeal of a villain versus villain showdown. Another agrees, finding the raw display of power surprisingly exciting. Alicia effortlessly dodges his attack, her movements fluid and graceful. With a powerful slide, she closes the distance between them instantly. She plants her foot, preparing to unleash a devastating counterattack. The werewolf stares in shock as she appears right before him. He lets out a grunt of pure surprise at her incredible speed. He swings his massive claws in a desperate, last-ditch effort. Alicia easily evades the attack, floating just beyond his reach. A powerful blast of dark energy erupts from her position. The werewolf is struck, the ground shattering from the immense impact. Alicia looks on, coolly remarking on how slow he is. The werewolf's face is a mask of shock and searing pain. A wave of dark power slams into the defeated monster. He cries out in agony as the final, crushing blow lands. He lies defeated, moaning in pain as viewers are awestruck. A viewer recalls theorists said Alicia was stronger than an S rank. They admit they never imagined the power gap was this huge. Onlookers cheer for their beloved vampire as she stands victorious. Alicia looks down on the fallen werewolf with a curious expression. She asks him if he isn't a little weak for his rank. Viewers are confused, wondering how an S-rank boss was so overwhelmed. She questions him directly, asking if he's truly an S-rank boss. From the ground, the defeated werewolf begins to chuckle darkly. He mockingly asks who ever told her that he was S-rank. He points out that Kuga, her human companion, has been gone a while. Alicia gasps, a sudden, terrible realization dawning in her eyes. Elsewhere, viewers note Kuga's bad luck, always finding himself in trouble. Gray innocently asks Kuga if he knows about the werewolf game. Kuga looks over, puzzled by her sudden and strange question. He admits that he knows of it, but has never played. Gray begins to explain the game with a sweet, innocent smile. She describes how a liar werewolf attacks villagers in the night. Kuga is surprised, admitting he didn't know the finer details. She turns to him again, calling out to get his full attention. Kuga turns back, listening intently as she prepares to continue. She hesitates for a moment before making her shocking confession. With a bright smile, she declares that she is the werewolf. Kuga's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock and disbelief. Alicia is seen running frantically through the castle's grand halls. She stops suddenly, desperately searching for any sign of Kuga. A note explains the fake werewolf is too injured to move. Alicia screams Kuga's name, her voice echoing with pure panic. She bursts through a set of doors, her search growing more desperate. She gasps, finally spotting Kuga at the end of the corridor. She comes to a sudden halt, taking in the strange scene. She stands in the doorway, her mind racing to understand. She reaches out a hand, trying to get his attention. Kuga and Gray stand together, unaware of her frantic arrival. Her expression is a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. Viewers are relieved, noting that Kuga is at least still alive. Alicia calls out Kuga's name, her voice filled with worry. Kuga turns, calmly asking why she looks so panicked. She screams at him to be careful, a desperate warning. Her face is a mask of terror as she points at Gray. She shouts that the little girl is the real, dangerous werewolf. Kuga calmly confirms that he knows, as she just told him. Alicia is taken aback, letting out a small gasp of surprise. He explains with a slight smile that she came out to him. Viewers are skeptical, finding it hard to believe she's the boss. A close-up shows Gray's innocent, sparkling, and completely disarming eyes. A viewer insists they knew she was cute from the start. Gray blushes, saying she heard Kuga wanted her as a subordinate. Kuga frantically denies it, insisting it was Alicia's plan, not his. Ignoring his protests, Gray states that she has accepted the offer. Alicia is utterly dumbfounded, only able to stammer out a Her confusion erupts into a comical shriek of total disbelief. A viewer wonders if Kuga is fated to be loved by monsters. Another viewer angrily vows to eliminate the traitor Kuga themselves. Kuga looks on, comically distressed by the chaotic turn of events. Alicia stomps her foot, demanding to know why this happened. Gray begins to explain, her face shadowed in a serious expression. Her eyes sparkle as she reveals it was because he was kind. Alicia is shocked into silence by such a simple, pure reason. Gray fondly recalls the moment Kuga rescued her from her chains. He had repeatedly told her she did well and not to worry. She tearfully admits it was the first time anyone was so kind. Viewers are incredulous, asking if that was really all it took. A viewer jokingly tells Kuga to switch places with them immediately. Alicia trembles, her face hidden by shadows of pure jealousy. She mutters in disbelief, unable to process what she just heard. She explodes in a fit of rage, yelling she's never heard such words. Kuga calmly points out she's never been in a similar situation. He asks her a simple, right? Leaving her completely speechless. She looks away, begrudgingly admitting that he has a valid point. Viewers notice her silence and joke about what she's thinking. The awkward trio stands together, Kuga caught in the middle. Alicia quietly considers pretending to be weak for some sympathy. Viewers immediately threaten to unsubscribe if she changes her act. She snaps back, yelling at them for making such wild assumptions. She insists she wasn't thinking anything of the sort at all. The fake werewolf on the floor weakly calls out his sister's name. He looks on with a defeated and somber expression. The group is shocked, and viewers realize they are siblings. A viewer notes that now that it's mentioned, they do look alike. Another viewer confirms that Gray must be the werewolf Chan's name. The werewolf confronts his sister, demanding an explanation for the bizarre situation. Gray turns to her brother, her hands clasped before her. With eyes full of wonder, she announces she has found her fated one. She gracefully pivots away from her stunned brother. She joyfully embraces Kuga, declaring she will become his subordinate. Alicia and the werewolf react with matching expressions of utter shock. The brother watches his sister cling to the human, feeling a bit hurt. He frantically calls out to Gray, telling her to wait. "Are you out of your mind?" he roars in disbelief. Gray gently touches Kuga's cheek, calling him a very kind person. Looking into his eyes, she confesses it was practically love at first sight. The werewolf is utterly aghast at her sudden declaration of love. He warns her that love at first sight could lead to a terrible man. Kuga dryly remarks that the werewolf is one to talk. Alicia notes the brother's stalker-like behavior and Kuga's strange appeal. Gray smiles serenely, stating she doesn't mind if her feelings are one-sided. She dismisses her brother's opinion, leaving him utterly crushed. She turns back to Kuga, asking if she can be a subordinate. The defeated brother watches as his sister stands with her new master. Alicia observes the scene, a shadow of an idea forming in her mind. She gazes at the new pair, her expression unreadable. A brilliant realization dawns on her. This subordinate is hers by proxy. Gray begins to state her oath, starting by saying she hates him. She clarifies her contract. She will come whenever called, preferably once a day. Alicia watches the strange contract unfold, her plan solidifying. She triumphantly pulls out her list, marking off a new accomplishment. She declares that her something subordinate is now her own. Kuga and his new follower share a moment of quiet, smiling agreement. Kuga privately questions her convoluted logic, but decides to let it slide. The scene shifts back to Alicia's temporary home in the Monster City. A notification appears on their monitor, a news stream from Kumasii. Alicia's eyes sparkle with curiosity. She insists that they watch. Kuga agrees, and they decide to tune in to his old party stream. A tiny Alicia wonders aloud what Kuga's old comrades are up to. Kuga quietly agrees, his expression tinged with complex emotions. On the screen, Kumasii navigates a jagged, crystalline cavern. Saiyan announces their objective is to gather materials for her staff. The cavern is a stark and dangerous landscape. She informs the viewers that there will not be much combat. She notes that their teamwork was a little poor on the last stream. Sarah listens to her critique with a stern, focused gaze. Mikari's expression is tense as she takes in the new leader's words. Yuria agrees they must unify their intentions and work together. Saiyan tells the viewers to watch as she guides the party to victory. The stream's comments praise Saiyan's reassuring and capable leadership. Internally, Saiyan recalls the tragic boss battle that wiped out her last party. A viewer comments on how her skill far outshines her previous teammates. The viewer then expresses worry about the skill gap in her current party. Saiyan tells her fans not to speak ill of her former party members. She declares it is her mission to elevate Kumasii to S rank. Her fans cheer her on, certain that she can do it. She thanks them for their support, raising her staff with a smile. Her staff lands on the ground with a sickening, sticky thud. She looks down, confused by the strange substance on the cavern floor. She finds herself standing in a vast, web-filled chamber. An intricate magic circle glows beneath her as she realizes it's a trap. The webs suddenly constrict, shooting up to ensnare her. She lets out a cry of surprise as she is caught. An emergency alert flashes on screen as Mikari calls out Saiyan's name. Mikari stands alone, frozen in the crystalline cavern. She watches in horror as Saiyan is hoisted into the air by the web. Her eyes widen as the terrible realization dawns on her. She screams, identifying the trap as a dreaded warp web. The web cocoons Saiyan, glowing with powerful teleportation magic. Saiyan's face is a mask of terror as she is pulled away. With a blinding flash, she vanishes completely. Mikari frantically asks what happened to their healer. She repeats that Saiyan was caught in the warp web. Sarah and Yuria look at each other, understanding the grave implication. The stream chat erupts, identifying the monster responsible, Arachne. They have been trapped by a fearsome S-rank boss. A grim legend tells of the many explorers who vanished in this nest. Mikari looks to her remaining friends, her face pale with worry. Yuri's expression is grim, her resolve hardening. Sarah looks nervous, but a flicker of determination is in his eyes. The three stand together before the web's lingering magical energy. Looking back at the girls, Sarah declares that they are going in. His face is set, his decision made. Yuria and Mikari give a silent, determined nod of agreement. The three of them walk toward the glowing magic circle. Sarah's hand brushes against Yuria's as they move. Yuria's hand, in turn, brushes against Mikari's. Mikari's hand touches the edge of Sarah's cloak. Their faces are a portrait of grim, unified resolve. They step into the light of the teleportation trap. The magic activates, whisking them away in a flash. They arrive on the 45th lower floor, the Hall of Arachne. Sarah looks around, realizing they are in the spider's nest. They gaze up at the massive, web-choked industrial hall. He spots Saiyan in the distance, noting the entrance is likely sealed. A voice welcomes them, remarking that all four have come play. The party looks up in shock toward the source of the voice. A monstrous figure descends, calling them a bountiful harvest. The S-rank boss, Arachne, reveals herself with a sadistic grin. The terrifying Spider-Woman looms over the trapped adventurers. Her eyes gleam with predatory hunger as she inspects her new prey. Sarah, Mikari, and Yuria stand together, ready for the fight. The live chat fears this could be the final stream for Komisei. Viewers ironically cheer for Saiyan to prove her S-rank potential now. Saiyan, sweating but composed, suggests they proceed as planned. The party stands united, facing the monstrous S-rank boss, Arachne, in her lair. Mikari urgently casts a spell, calling for a protective barrier to enhance their defenses. Saiyan receives the buff, her defense stats rising as she prepares for the onslaught. Arachne grins with cruel delight, telling them to take her incoming attack. A storm of bladed legs rains down upon the adventurers with terrifying speed. The sharp sound of steel meeting chitin echoes through the grand chamber. Yuria's ornate battle axe clashes powerfully against the monstrous limbs, holding them back. With a mighty battle cry, Yuria pushes back against the overwhelming force. The stream chat erupts with praise, impressed by Yuria's powerful defensive move. However, one viewer admits that the defensive display feels somewhat unsatisfying to watch. Yuria sees the comments, learning her fans want to see her berserker side. Arachne shifts her focus, launching a swift, surprise attack directly at Sarah. Sarah reacts just in time, raising his sword to block the incoming blow. His eyes widen in shock as the attack proves too powerful for his guard. A flurry of sharp appendages overwhelms the swordsman, breaking through his defense. His face is a mask of terror as the unstoppable attack closes in. The sickening sound of piercing flesh echoes as the blow finds its mark. He gasps in pain, a limb having pierced clean through his shoulder. Saiyan immediately casts a powerful auto-healing spell to mend Sarah's grievous wound. The viewers praise Saiyan's advanced magic, noting it will nullify minor damage. Mikari quickly follows up, casting an acceleration spell to boost their speed. Sarah's agility is enhanced, allowing him to move with newfound quickness and grace. A viewer compliments Mikari for her well-timed and crucial support magic. The viewers hope that these buffs will finally allow Sarah to counterattack effectively. Some viewers debate strategy, while others tell the armchair strategist to be quiet. Arachne watches their coordinated buffs with a knowing, intelligent smirk on her face. Her predatory eyes lock onto her true target, identifying Saiyan as the healer. Saiyan looks up, a flicker of fear on her face as she feels the boss's gaze. Sarah realizes Arachne's plan, his expression turning to one of alarm. Mikari's face mirrors his, her eyes wide with dawning horror. Yuria is also stunned, understanding the grave danger they are now all in. Arachne looms over them, beginning to explain the fundamental rule of combat. She explains that when fighting human parties, targeting the healer is the key. Saiyan understands that she is the cornerstone, and therefore the primary target. Yuria grits her teeth and moves to protect their vital healer from the attack. Arachne sneers, dismissing Yuria as a mere obstacle, no different than a common monster. Sarah can only watch, helpless, as the situation rapidly deteriorates. She unleashes a devastating attack, targeting the entire party at once. Mikari watches the wave of destruction approach, her face a mask of terror. Even the mighty Yuria is frozen in fear by the overwhelming display of power. Saiyan sweats, realizing that their well-oiled machine is about to be shattered. She roars that she doesn't need to pick them off. She'll just kill them all. The massive attack connects, completely shattering the party's defensive formation. Saiyan is sent flying by the force of the powerful, wide-ranging assault. Mikari is also thrown helplessly through the air, her small body no match for the blow. Yuria crashes to the ground, stunned and momentarily taken out of the fight. She lets out a pained gasp, struggling to recover from the devastating blow. Mikari, still on the ground, screams desperately for Yuria to protect her. Yuria tries to move, but finds her gauntlet stuck fast in a sticky web. She looks down in horror, realizing she has been completely immobilized. Arachne's massive spider leg slams down, trapping another adventurer. More webs shoot out, completely cocooning the struggling saint. Saiyan mutters a quiet, almost sarcastic thanks to the now helpless Yuria. Yuria's eyes dart towards Mikari, her only thought being to protect her friend. But it's too late. Both women are now helplessly caught in the webs. Mikari looks over at Yuria, her voice trembling as she asks if she's all right. Yuria sees Arachne looming over them, chuckling with sadistic amusement. The Spider-Woman mockingly asks if they really thought they had escaped her trap. She reminds them that her attack wasn't limited to just two of them. Yuria is completely bound, her face flushed with panic as the webs tighten. She lets out a terrified scream as she is hoisted into the air. Sarah and Mikari can only watch in horror, screaming Yuria's name. Yuria hangs helplessly from the ceiling, completely at the monster's mercy. The viewers sigh in disappointment, commenting that she made a fatal mistake. Saiyan argues with the chat, defending Yuria by stating she isn't a tank. Viewers lament that the fierce Goryeo-sama they loved is gone. The chat devolves into a fierce argument over who is truly to blame. A blur of motion signifies Sarah charging back into the fray. With a furious battle cry, Sarah launches a desperate counterattack. His blade connects with Arachne's body in a powerful, sweeping slash. The monster stands completely still, utterly unfazed by the direct hit. Sarah's face is a picture of disbelief as his attack has no effect. Dark energy seals the wound, the flesh knitting itself back together instantly. She looks at him with a bored expression, asking if he actually did anything. He stares in horror, realizing the monster possesses an incredible regenerative ability. Before he can react, Arachne strikes again, impaling him with a sharp limb. He grits his teeth, letting out a choked sound of agony. He cries out as the blade sinks deeper, blood splattering from the wound. Arachne's grin widens as she savors the swordsman's pain and despair. With a flick of her wrist, she sends the two support members flying. Mikari cries out Saiyan's name as they are helplessly tossed aside. A web shoots out, ensnaring Mikari midair and stopping her flight. Her eyes are wide with terror as she realizes she is trapped. She lets out a final, piercing scream as the webs envelop her. The viewers cry out in despair as Mikari is completely cocooned and helpless. The viewers beg Sarah to somehow save the two captured women. Saiyan watches the complete decimation of her party, rendered utterly speechless. The chat frantically screams at her to heal Sarah, their last remaining hope. The pressure mounts, and Saiyan begins to panic, cursing under her breath. She snarls, blaming her party members for holding her back once again. Overcome by fear and resentment, she abandons her party and flees. She reaches the throne room doors, shocked to find they will not open. She realizes the doors are sealed from the inside, but can be opened from without. She sees this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to escape her fate. The stream suddenly cuts out, and Saiyan believes God is on her side. She declares that she is special and will be the only one to survive. Suddenly, the massive doors explode inward, revealing Kuga standing in the doorway. The sound of the immense impact reverberates through the entire chamber. Saiyan stares up from the floor, her eyes wide with utter disbelief. She can only manage a single, choked syllable as she recognizes her savior. Saiyan screams in fury, demanding to know why he dared to shut the door. She glances back, confused, as a comment asks what happened during the blackout. Her eyes widen in dawning horror as she recognizes the figure before her. Kuga stands resolute, his arrival heralded by a storm of joy in the live chat. With fierce determination, Kuga readies his blade to strike the S-rank boss. He cries out, unleashing a powerful downward slash that connects with Arachne's body. The monstrous spider lets out a pained gasp, her single eye wide with shock. A piece of her shattered leg clatters uselessly to the stone floor. A wounded Sarah looks up from the ground, questioning what is happening. Mikari, also injured, shares his utter disbelief at the unbelievable scene. Yuria stares intently, trying to comprehend the dynamics of this human party. Saiyan is simply dumbfounded, unable to process the sudden turn of events. As Kuga stands ready, a viewer wonders if this is an act of salvation. A system notification appears, confirming the name of his unique trait, salvation. A diagram shows Kuga existing outside the main four-person party. The diagram then illustrates how he can swap places with Saiyan. In a dynamic pose, Kuga leaps into the fray, having substituted for Saiyan. He pauses, considering the most logical course of action he should take. He notes that Yuria was already incapacitated before his dramatic arrival. He thinks that perhaps swapping with Mikari would have been a better choice. But for a fleeting, unspoken reason, he chose to swap with Saiyan instead. Saiyan realizes with a jolt that she has been completely excluded from the battle. She panics, thinking he should have let her out before sealing the door. Kuga turns his attention away from the fight and calls out Alicia's name. He tells his vampire partner that he has just one more request. Alicia looks back at him, her expression curious as she asks what he needs. He asks her to protect Saiyan from any of Arachne's stray attacks. Alicia agrees, though her face shows she is clearly unenthusiastic about the task. Saiyan simply stares, shocked by his request and Alicia's reluctant acceptance. The live stream shows the trio, as viewers notice the vampire has arrived. Alicia sadly explains that she is unfortunately not qualified to join this fight. Saiyan grits her teeth, frustrated that the four-person limit also applies to monsters. As Kuga walks into battle, she laments this terrible disaster she is caught in. She calls out to him, questioning why a half-wit like him has appeared. Sarah cuts her off, hissing at the cowardly healer with pure contempt. He admits he could still understand if she were to look down on him. He struggles to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth as he speaks. He declares he'll never forgive her for abandoning them and disrespecting Kuga. Saiyan is stunned, horrified that Sarah is defending the very man he cast out. In the live chat, viewers begin to question if Saiyan tried to run away. Saiyan frantically tries to deny it, claiming she would never do such a thing. But she remembers the stream's unnatural blackout, a fact the viewers confirm. A chill runs down her spine. The same thing happened when her old party died. The chat turns against her, calling her lame and saying they've lost all respect. The battle rages on, Kuga pressing his ferocious assault against Arachne. He swings his massive sword, targeting the monster's flame-like hair. His blade connects with a powerful crunch, shattering one of Arachne's arms. The S-rank boss flinches back, her sharp teeth bared in a grimace of pain. She grits her teeth, wondering what in the world this warrior is. She reaches out with a clawed hand, attempting a desperate counterattack. Kuga easily slips past her defenses, dodging the blow with incredible speed. He moves in close, his blade a blur as he prepares another devastating strike. Blood splatters from a fresh wound on his cheek, but he doesn't falter. He stands before the towering Arachne, his expression calm and utterly focused. He brings his sword down again, overwhelming the boss with another powerful blow. More of Arachne's armored legs are shattered into useless fragments. The monster lets out a piercing, agonized shriek that echoes in the chamber. Kuga stands victorious for a moment, as a viewer expresses their utter confusion. A comment questions how he is dominating an S-rank boss in a solo fight. Alicia watches intently, remembering how skillfully he fought against her as well. Mikari admits that while she thought he fought well, this is another level. The panel shows speed lines, emphasizing the collective shock of the onlookers. Yuria voices the question on everyone's mind. Was Kuga always this strong? Lying wounded, Sarah knows the answer and confirms that he was. He declares that this is Kuga's true, original power, finally unleashed. The scene shifts, flashing back to a pivotal conversation 1 month prior. Sarah calmly announces his decision. Kuga must leave their party, Kumisai. Yuria and Mikari stare back at him, their eyes wide with disbelief. Sarah explains that Kuga is not a mere jack-of-all-trades, as everyone believes. He clarifies that Kuga himself is different from the average hero. He has long since surpassed the ordinary limits of his versatile class. His skills in attack, defense, support, and healing were all first-rate. In short, Sarah explains Kuga was simply omnipotent, a master of every trade. His true power was enough to rival an S-rank boss in a solo battle. Kuga, he explains, possessed a natural, heaven-sent talent for combat. Through relentless, tireless effort, that hidden talent had finally blossomed. But because their party lacked a healer, he took on both that role and a tank's. He was wasting his incredible talent just to ensure that they would not die. Therefore, Sarah says, they must release him from the shackles that are them. Sarah stands before his 2 female comrades, his back turned to them. Mikari says that she understands his logic, but she still has reservations. Yuria remains silent, her expression conflicted and unreadable. Mikari asks if they really need to resort to such a cruel method. She suggests that if they just explain the situation to him normally. Sarah cuts her off, stating with certainty that Kuga would absolutely refuse. Mikari is stunned in his silence by his unwavering conviction. He explains that Kuga has incredibly low self-esteem, and that he is far too stubborn for his own good. Yuria and Mikari listen, their expressions a mixture of sadness and resignation. Sarah continues, predicting that Kuga would probably fight well against the vampire, but ultimately be unable to defeat her alone. So they would orchestrate his expulsion and his fight with the vampire. They would be ready to rush into the hidden room at a moment's notice. They would monitor his stream and wait nearby for the perfect moment to intervene. Back in the present, Kuga's relentless assault continues, but it's not enough. A fresh cut appears on his cheek, and he instinctively murmurs the word heal. A soft green light envelopes the wound, closing it in an instant. Arachne watches this display, a look of pure annoyance on her monstrous face. She taunts him, revealing that he is not the only one who can recover. The stream chat erupts, questioning if Kuga is a cheat for fighting so well. An onlooker notes that Kuga appears to be the one on the offensive. Kuga realizes with frustration that he cannot overcome Arachne's incredible regenerative abilities. From the shadows of her own face, Arachne lets out a grating, triumphant laugh. She taunts him, noting that he is trying hard but is being slowly worn down. Kuga stands resolute, his sword held at the ready, his determination flaring. He takes a moment, his expression hardening into a focused mask of concentration. With his eyes covered by a blindfold, he centers himself for his next move. Cutting through the chaos of battle, Kuga calls out his former friend's name, Sarah. Sarah looks up, his face a mask of pure shock, asking what Kuga wants. Kuga makes his request, asking Sarah to hold off the monstrous spider for a moment. He turns away, placing his trust in the man who betrayed him. Sarah stares, a storm of conflicting emotions swirling in his eyes. His hand tightens on the hilt of his sword as he quietly accepts the duty. With his resolve now absolute, he confirms his intent to help. He plants his foot firmly on the ground, preparing to charge into the fray. With a powerful battle cry, Sarah lunges forward to engage the S-rank boss. While Sarah fights, Kuga walks calmly towards Alicia and the terrified Saiyan. His back is to the viewer as he approaches the two women at the room's edge. Saiyan, looking up in confusion and fear, asks him what is happening. His face shadowed, Kuga offers a cold, emotionless apology to the healer. He explains this is a necessary condition to activate a new, terrible trait. He states that he holds no grudge against her, but also has no obligation. Saiyan's eyes widen in dawning horror as she realizes his true intent. She can't believe it, wondering aloud if this is really happening to her. Alicia smugly observes Saiyan seeking her, a vampire, for protection from a human. Surrounded by a dark, menacing aura, Saiyan realizes she is to be a sacrifice. She flinches away, her body trembling with pure, unadulterated terror. In a flash, Kuga's hand shoots out and grabs her arm with an iron grip. Her armored boot scrapes uselessly against the stone floor as she tries to flee. He drags the screaming healer across the floor, her wails echoing in the hall. Alicia asks if Saiyan truly expects an apology for her non-interference. With a sweet smile, she reminds everyone that she is, after all, a monster. On the ground, Saiyan screams that she doesn't want this fate. She insists her journey isn't over yet, that she has so much more to do. She wails that she worked so hard to finally become an S-rank equivalent. Between sobs, she apologizes for her cowardice, lamenting all her wasted effort. Kuga raises his sword, telling her coldly that he doesn't have much time. Saiyan lets out a final, piercing scream of absolute terror and denial. With a single, brutal motion, Kuga brings his sword down upon the healer. The stream chat explodes. One viewer notes he did it. Another says she was annoying. More comments flood in, questioning Kuga's actions while others mourn Saiyan's death. A massive pillar of dark, malevolent energy erupts from Kuga's body. Arachne turns from her fight with Sarah, startled by the immense surge of power. A close-up shows her eye, wide with shock and disbelief at the scene. The resulting shockwave sends the mighty S-rank boss flying across the room. Her sharp, bladed limbs are shattered into pieces by the raw force of the blast. She crashes violently against the far wall of her throne room, broken and mangled. The impact kicks up a cloud of dust and debris, a testament to Kuga's new power. Arachne struggles to rise, her monstrous form now a wreck of shattered chitin. Before she can recover, Kuga appears and bisects her with a single, devastating slash. Her face is a mask of confusion as she whispers a final, disbelieving, from the ground. The wounded Yuria watches the entire, horrifying spectacle unfold. Her eyes are wide with shock, unable to process what she has just witnessed. She whispers into the silence, asking what in the world is happening. Alicia appears beside her, a strange, knowing smile playing on her lips. She explains to Yuria that the Kuga she once knew is gone forever. Yuria, propped against the wall, demands to know what Alicia did to him. His job is now fallen hero, with abilities similar to his original class. The narrative explains his salvation trait has been carefully carried over. But his healing is now self-only, a demerit that massively boosts his offense. A new trait, salvation of the soul, enhances his power by saving others. This salvation, however, means returning a soul to nothingness. In short, his abilities increase dramatically every time he kills someone. Yuria is aghast, while Alicia pouts, insisting that she did nothing to him. Kuga speaks, confirming that something has changed, his very job. His job is now fallen hero, awakened the first day he killed a person.